Do you want to be a part of the CoCo community? Sure, we all do. So join this free weekly live talk show to find out how easy it is to watch at home and learn about your color computer. At the CoCoNation, more than 9 million men and women have participated in the community without setting foot outside their homes. And now at home in your spare time, you can see what's happening, or even join the discussion. Choose from any one of these segments: panel intros, project updates, acquisitions, CoCo thoughts, featured interviews and events, the Game On Challenge, news, Ron's Garage, CoCo commercials, show coverage, panel goodbyes, or you can join one of our extra shows. You can choose from the Game On Challenge Live or CoCoTECH. Join the CoCoNation right now.
Click the link for the free information TJB Chris spoke about. Then decide if you want to watch the CoCoNation Live Show, the world's leading live weekly talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer, its siblings, cousins, and red-headed stepchildren. Visit thecoconation.com. There is no obligation and no salesman will visit you. Visit thecoconation.com.
The CoCoNation show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCoNation show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCoNation.
Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCoNation. the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CoCoNation Show, episode 370.
Wow, that many.
370.
That means we've tortured people 370 times.
Yeah, that's the temperature,
Over
too.
7 years.
That's the temperature outside.
And what's weird
I've got
is they
less of
keep
a
coming
record
back.
than you guys. I've only been on for a few months.
Okay. Yeah, your volume fell off again there, Henry.
How's
A
that?
newbie.
Right.
All right. Well, while Henry's sorting that out, let's go ahead and do the panel introductions. In the top left corner, yours truly, the stand-in for Ken today.
Awesome.
Next over is Bob Emery.
Howdy and welcome.
And Henry, can we hear you?
Hi, folks. Welcome to the CoCoNation. My name's Henry, and today I'm hacking around on FujiNet. Can you hear me?
Not really.
Yep. We
Loud and
can.
clear. But you're quiet.
I think he's coming through plenty clear.
Oh, well, maybe I need to
Maybe
turn the
me.
volume up.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's your popularity vote right there.
Yep.
He's plenty clear. He's plenty
Dial,
clear.
dial back to charisma.
All right. I turned the volume up on my headset here. Maybe I can hear. All right. Next over, MarkO.
Howdy. Good to be here today.
All right. And you see you got your mic fixed. And next over, we got Ron Delvo.
Hey, welcome to the nation.
Hey, Ron.
And then we got Rick ZZ Top Euland.
Greetings, everyone.
What's multiplying back there behind you?
Seems to be joysticks are coming after me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You leave them alone and they're multiplying.
Do you need a joystick, Ron? I can hook you up. I know a guy.
That's the White Rabbit edition of the Craft joystick, I think.
Exactly.
I have one or two.
All right. Next over, we got David Ladd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Please sit, stay a while, and enjoy the craziness.
And next up is L Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
And then we got Brian Weasler.
Hello, all. I'm sitting here sporting the sibling rivalry T-shirt. So,
As am I.
yep, there you go. Yeah, check them out on
Cool.
YouTube. They're a lot of fun to watch. Tim and AJ.
And last and least, we have Grant Leedy.
Hello, everybody.
Grant, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. First up, we have project updates. Let's see. What does my notes say? Oh, MarkO with the tech.
Oh, CoCoTECH. Oh, I get to
CoCoTECH.
announce
Yeah,
that.
that's it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, coming up, be in 9 days, basically Monday, a week from now, we're going to be doing CoCoTECH. I don't know which one will be.
Episode
number 5,
6,
number
I believe.
Number 6 sounds about right. There we go. This is going to be L Curtis here and Nick Barentes. It's going to be on Semigraphics 12/24. Is that what it's about? From Basic?
From Basic.
Cool. I understand this is like pure magic.
Not
So,
possible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Well, show up and heckle them. Prove them wrong.
You
Anyway.
can start early and start today.
Anyway, CoCoTECH, 9 days. It'll be evening on our Eastern time, our normal time. It'll be 7 p.m. 1900. That would be UTC -4, is it? I'll think about that for a
5,
minute.
isn't it?
-5, yeah.
So July
Okay.
22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, like Mark said. And it's going to be a bit of a longer one, just to warn you. It'll probably be over an hour, under 2 hours, I would think.
But we record it for posterity, and you can watch it later.
And there will be accompanying materials we'll be putting up for download. There'll be a disk image, and also there's a PDF version of the slideshow. So, And Mark, I think we're setting up a new bit on the website for the CoCoNation show. You might want to talk
I'll see
about
if I can. I'll see if I can get Mr. Steggy to set up a little area on the CoCoNation.com website, so you'll be able to click on there and find stuff. So don't know what those look like exactly, but we try to be available. And of course, you can always leave us messages on Discord or on Facebook, or send us emails, or however you want
I
to reach
expect
out.
there will be questions after the episode on Discord.
Follow up. Yeah. Okay. We do have a CoCoTECH channel on the nation on the CoCoNation Discord, and the CoCo Discord. It's not really the CoCoNation Discord, but anyway, but we hang out there, and so we can talk about it there. So.
Hey, I forgot to say hi to everybody in the chat.
Oh,
hi everybody.
There's a bunch of them.
Oh, let's see. Next up, Henry.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent.
Curtis, did you misname the news summary file?
So
Why?
I have.
No, I guess
I
not.
have been. Yep.
Sorry,
I have
go
been
ahead.
hacking around. Everybody's talking.
Talking at me.
I mean, I know I'm not important, but come on, guys.
Where's that mute button?
You're just down this little corner over here. I had a hard time finding it.
Proceed, Henry.
All right. Okay, so I've been hacking around a bit with FujiNet, and I'll just reboot this thing to give an idea. And one of the things that was bugging me, I was actually demonstrating this to one of the guys that I work with, and trying to show some of the old games. And I went into Apsarata Online, and I was like, okay, I can go into CoCo, I can go into games. Let's see. And then as soon as I get into games on this, there's like all sorts of there's several pages of it. And in the original version, let's see if I can remember how to point on this. In the original version, where you see there on that next to the bottom line, there wasn't a page up or down, and there also filter wasn't functioning. So I went and added in functionality to make it go a page at a time by holding down the shift key and using the up or down key, which is nice. And also added in a filter capability. Now, the way that FujiNet had originally been set up, filtering something, like if I want to look for Daggerath, for instance, okay, it's not going to filter directories is the problem. So, all right, I want to be able to filter directories. So what I'm currently working on, what I've got working on like the TNFS stuff, when you're doing like Apps.errata or other online sources, I've got it so that if you pipe a slash right after the it will go ahead and filter the directories for you. Now, if you currently have a FujiNet, I haven't fixed this for SD card usage yet. I'm working on that right now. And also, if you do go into a directory, keep in mind, because you can see up there at the top, top-ish, that the filter's actually shown up there. At least 8 characters of it are shown. If you go into another directory, that filter's still going to be there. So you have to go manually clear out the filter to see everything that's in there. And that's what I've been working on, and that's where and it seems to be working just fine so far. Other Henry from Canada is also testing this out, and he's the one who clued me into the problems with the SD card. So I finally got an SD card put together, and FujiNet sees it, and so I'm going to be playing with that today.
Cool. That's Mr. Reichfeld, by the way.
Yeah, Henry Reichfeld.
So you don't have to flash your FujiNet card.
Oh no, I'm actually doing this. Hang on just a second. Let me get into a control. I think that's the one that I'm looking for. There we go. That's more like what I need to say. So I'm actually working on getting. Getting it so that to get this to work, you kind of have to flash the FujiNet, because what you're working with there is the config app, which needs to be changed out in order to be able to do the new things. And then there's some changes in the firmware code itself to be able to accept filtering directories. So Ron, on your end, I wouldn't recommend reflashing just yet. Because I would recommend waiting a little bit until this is a little bit more mature. But Henry made the statement that if this gets working, it's not that it'll replace the CoCo SD. It's that it'll stand beside, almost at feature parity with the CoCo SD, is what SDC Henry was mentioning that. So, we'll see. I don't have a CoCo SDC.
A question for you, Henry, on this this functionality you're adding for basically adding wildcarding support for directories, et cetera. Is that something that the other platforms already have and just the CoCo didn't, or is that something they don't have either?
I don't know if the other. I'm not played with any of the other. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, the other platforms did have it. Correct. The other platforms did have it, but they didn't have wildcarding for directories.
Oh, so they had the same limitation then.
Right. The wildcarding for directories, because I'm putting that in the firmware build, and it's actually living in the way that FujiNet talks to the file system. That's going to be activated for all the other platforms. Hopefully, it'll work. So if you've got a FujiNet on an Atari or an Apple or something like that, and you want to take a risk, go ahead and download. Go ahead and get the most recent GitHub clone. Build the firmware and the config file and see if it works. If it doesn't, then yell at me, please.
Okay, yeah, because that sounds like something, if it wasn't in there already, that Thomas Cherryholmes himself would be interested in adding to it, because that would help on all the platforms like you're mentioning.
I actually told Thomas on the CoCo thing that I was hacking around with it, and he gave me a big old thumbs up. And I hadn't set the pull request up. I told him that I'd got it working and I'd set up the pull request, and like within a minute and a half after the pull request was there, Thomas had been like, "Okay, yeah, it's in master."
That's good. I also want to mention a comment from Kieran in the chat. He says, "It's good that you're all named Henry. It saves confusion." I think he's being sarcastic.
Oh goodness, there were 5 Henrys at CoCoFEST, except one of them went by the French name instead of the English name.
Henri.
Yep.
Yeah, because we had Strickland, we had you, we had Breitfeld. Who were the other two?
Yeah.
Henri and somebody else, and I can't remember who the other one was.
Huh.
Henri sounds like ornery.
Well, yeah, but that's because I'm badly mispronouncing the French name.
Cool. I'm glad. Like, one thing Thomas always pushes is that he wants help, like improving FujiNet without it all having to be on him. Right, and that was part of the problem on getting a CoCo version started, because we didn't have anybody who could dedicate the time to it. Like, I'm too busy with all my own stuff. But I'm glad you're into there and actually contributing to the main part of the project, so that all the other platforms are getting stuff from the CoCo side.
That actually makes
which is how it should be.
Happy. Yes, exactly. That actually makes me quite happy, because again, like I'm hoping to get feedback from other users who like, oh, this function, if it breaks, please, like I'm the one who made it possible. I'm the one who broke it if it broke. So let me know and let's see if we can't fix it if it's broken.
So as far as testing the other platforms like the Atom, the Apple, the Atari, and anything else, is that something that Tom would assign to you, or does he try it himself, or does he pass it on to that community, or?
It's going to go on to the rest of the community. For the most part, what I've done in the TNFS thing and at the file system level, that's happening on the ESP32. That's not happening on the local machine. So since that's happening on the device itself, if it's working on the device, it should be working across the board.
Yeah, as long as the software knows how to talk to that specific new function. Yeah.
Right, because all you're doing is you got an ABI or something like that that'll talk to the TNFS, and TNFS is the one that I was looking at. Like, oh, it's got a toggle that lets you filter directories or not, and we're not using that toggle. I wonder how I can make that work. One of the other guys on the Discord on the CoCo channel said, hey, I was thinking about using a slash in there, maybe a preceding or trailing. I said, I like the idea of a trailing slash. So I immediately said, this should be fairly simple to implement. And then I forgot to check for null pointers.
That's a common C
Says
thing. I know
every programmer ever.
Yes.
Well, no, in Basic 9 we use FFs, not nulls. So.
Well, it's kind of fun because the ESP, the way they've put this together on the ESP32, it has guru meditation errors and panics.
Awesome. Mediumus.
Cool. No, I'm glad you're working on it. I'm glad you're adding functionality to it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to the final version of the card that doesn't require the bit banger too.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the areas where Thomas really has some like he's watching what's going on with that. And also he's been doing the conference circuit a lot this year and just basically talking it up. So yeah, he's the primary, he's the lead firmware engineer for FujiNet. At the same token, he's also the face of FujiNet.
Evangelist and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Evangelist, yep.
And so there's a sizable team out there working on this thing. And those of you out there in the CoCoNation who have other platforms that y'all are looking at or want to play around with, this is supposed to be, the FujiNet is supposed to be a multi-platform, not cross-platform, but multi-platform device that aims to bring kind of everybody together. It's still nascent in its ability to do multiplayers across the different platforms, because each platform has to have its own client written for it. But at the same time, you're still looking at something that will bring the 8 and 16-bit worlds together, as it were.
Got to have the infrastructure first in order to connect everything.
Yep.
So you build it, they will come. Once you get the base in there, then I expect to see the card games and the other turn-taking games to start, developing across all the platforms.
One of the guys on the Discord threw together a Yahtzee server, and so I want to, once I get this stabilized, I want to look at that and see, hey, I wonder how hard it would be to write a client for that.
Not too difficult. Especially since it's turn-taking, you don't have to worry about synchronization and stuff so much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what that car race game is going to be a much more difficult thing to.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Next up, I think we have Brian.
Hey guys. Let me go ahead and change camera here. Just a couple quick things to share. There we go. Okay, everybody pick that out.
Can you zoom it up there, Mark?
Yeah, it's a gimme.
Yep, I'm busy pushing buttons over here, so there's Brian.
There we go.
A very out of focus one.
Everybody recognize what that is, right?
No, it's a fuzzy blur.
That was on purpose.
It's a big fuzzy blur.
It looks like I'm not wearing glasses. Oh, now I'm wearing glasses.
It was a gimme.
Looks like quantum foam or something.
Oh,
I think.
No. That's 6309.
6309.
Yep.
And
Oh yeah, the
PLCC
44 pin
package.
Yeah.
Yep.
44 pin square.
Sweet.
There we go.
3 megahertz rated even. Yep.
Focus.
Right. So
We're trying.
a few weeks back here, Leslie Anderson had a post on Facebook that he had come across a batch of these and wanted to know if anybody wanted some for free. And so I threw my name in the hat, and he sent me 3 of the lot that he had.
Nice.
Yeah, they were gone quick.
Yeah, and so I got this somewhere. I was trying to find the box that had it. I have one of those adapters that will go from this 44 pin type of format to the regular IC socket
40.
format.
Yep, 40.
But I think it's the right part number though, because it has the E. So I'm thinking if that adapter works, we should be able to drop this thing in there, right?
Right.
So that'll be my next thing there I'll play around with there. But no, I just wanted to show that. Also give a little shout out to Leslie for being generous like that and offering some up to the community. So I can't remember how many he had, like 15 or so, and he sent me 3 of them. So play around with it. Has anybody else ever done that with one of those? Or does anybody know anybody that's dropped one of those into a CoCo?
I've done similar things with EPROMs to adapt them to my EPROM programmer.
Okay.
I've known some people in the 6809 community making their own breadboards that have used these with the adapters to fit onto an existing design, but not specifically on the CoCo.
Okay. So, well, I'll let you know once I find that adapter. I know I have one. I just didn't grab the right box yet.
Is that the same size as a gimme?
No, it's probably about half the size.
Oh,
not much bigger than your thumbnail, depending on how big your thumb is, I guess. But anyway, so the next thing I want to show you here is this going to focus for me today. So a while back here, Don Barber had made these boards. It's for the AM9511. Is that it's a math processor?
MathCo processor.
Yeah, I think I've got one of those boards. Yeah.
And I bought the chip from him. I haven't got the components yet, but I had one of these cases here. Is it going to come apart for me? Oh, it's not going to come apart here. Hold on a second.
As he throws it against the wall.
Smash, smash.
Yeah, we'll hear a big snap and then, oh.
Right. So I have a couple of these cases here. These were actually like new old stock. You know, they weren't even punched out or anything. This may have come from like a supplier that Radio Shack might have used.
Didn't the speech sound pack come in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the Orc 90 or something.
Right.
That's,
And you can see how none of the holes are
that's the standard big peripheral cart size.
Okay.
Your floppy drives, your RS-232, everything like that.
Yep.
Speech and sound.
And these aren't punched out or anything. And I had bought, I can't remember how many I have. And I thought, well, maybe I can make that work in here. Because the card would drop in here like this, but you can see it's not the same size and there's nothing really to put the screws into. And I was thinking about, you know, using some epoxy to hold some little brass inserts, and I can make that work. But then I remember the joystick that Mike Hill and his wife, what's her name, Dina, did. They did those joysticks that they were selling at CoCoFEST. And so I brought this along with me to CoCoFEST, and I spoke to Michael and his wife, and they said, yeah, I think we can do that. And in the mail, this came.
Ooh.
Oh, right.
So he made maybe a nice little case with a cover, no screws required. It's kind of they have a little key to tip on here, and
Nice.
it just snap fits right on there for me.
And
So-
dollars to donuts, that is a standard short floppy controller's case now that many, many, many things will plug into.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was the same size. I think this might have been just a hair longer. I was going to go look and see, but it does seem about right. I can't remember if this board would fit in there or not. Because I was talking to Don about this, and he didn't take into any consideration the size of the board. He started out with somebody else's drawing here with this, and then he just started placing components, and then he just made the board however long it worked for the thing. So it may, like you're saying, Rick, this may fit into a 501 controller, but it might be a little longer. But he didn't size this to anything particular. He just made the board big enough to fit all the components.
Oh, okay, because that's what everyone used to do. We take whatever Radio Shack case and, okay, the screws go here and the post goes there.
Right.
And
Yeah, I'll
build.
have to dig one out and see how close it is in size. But
then-
the other thing that Michael's doing is I replied back to his email, and so this was just kind of a prototype board. They're gonna if you saw like some of their coasters and everything with their type of 3D printers that they have, or not 3D printers, they can do up to 4 colors at the same time. They're going to make a label here that's going to be the name that Don had, which was the AM9511 pack. So they're going to incorporate that in here, and he's going to send me a link. And once he does, I'll share the link with the community, and anybody who happens to have one of these boards can go out to their website and go ahead and order one, and it'll have a label here so you know what's inside.
Nice.
So
Yeah, just comparing the size here, I've got my FT501 controller here, and it looks, that might be a little bit taller. I think you're right.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
it's
just
kinda
looking
hard
to
to
see
tell.
here. I don't have one here near me. I got a couple boxes of stuff here, so I may have one somewhere. Let me
Is that the
look
size
here
of an
quick.
SDC?
You'll have to find a board and shove it in there because this clamping system might work even if the board's not quite
Yeah.
the right size.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
Just
And you can see here, a CoCo SDC is actually a little bit shorter
a little short.
in length there. It's but maybe the camera angle is not very good, but you can see there's about a 1/4 of an inch right there or so. So this board might be a hair too long to fit into a 501.
Free cases.
So, but he said that the cost is going to be very reasonable. So I'm thinking anybody who has those boards, and with that, Don shares all of this out on his GitHub page. And so if you wanted to go build one of these projects yourself, you can go out to his GitHub. You can download the Gerbers, get your own board made, buy your chip, buy the other components, go out to Michael's website, and get yourself a 3D case, and you're making yourself a math coprocessor board for your CoCo as well.
But
So
if you
are
have
there
the
any-
Gerber files, wouldn't you be able to just to resize it to fit a standard case?
You probably could do that. I
no.
mean, once you have the Gerbers, yeah,
Yeah.
you could probably go and tweak it from wherever you want to. Yeah.
You need
Yep.
the STLs to do that, which are very much.
But I'm thinking of from the approach of somebody who doesn't have that expertise. You know, maybe you can do the soldering up or whatever and whatnot. And but yeah,
What are the uses of this board? I mean, is there testing that shows how much faster it is with this to do what?
yeah. Well, you can't just plug this board in. It's going to suddenly make your CoCo faster. You're going to have to write some programs. And Don out on his GitHub does have some programs showing the speed difference for doing some calculations between just doing it normally through BASIC and then sending the data to this and then getting the result back.
Hey, Ron?
He does.
So there's a couple cards for the Apple II that use the same chip. I have one of them. And the manufacturers basically hooked the BASIC, Microsoft BASIC, so that you could redirect your commands to this math coprocessor instead of using the built-in floating point routines. And I believe Don did the same thing. There's basically a shim thing that gets loaded for the CoCo. So theoretically, you could take a BASIC program and then write it both ways, or modify in BASIC. It does like sine or cosine calculation, and then have it run through the MathCo, and then of course time it. So it's kind of a specialty thing. You'd have to write software specifically for it, or modify your BASIC to use it. But
yeah. And
So
just
it's not-
for comparison here, I've got 2 generations of the CoCo SDC along with the FT501 controller, and it looks pretty darn close to being the same size.
Yep. So along that line, if those are all about the same size, then this board here might be just a hair too long to fit in the case. And so, as Mark was saying, once you have the Gerbers and if you have the right software, you could probably go in and maybe move
Just
a few
tweak it a
things
bit.
around a little bit and shrink the board before you get one made. So
You need the STO files to move anything around.
okay.
I mean, we're talking about the final files where you just take them and print them as they are, which is great. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. This is a
Yep.
nice project. Thanks for
Yep.
showing it.
So
Very
that's,
nice case.
I need to open up the case. Yeah, his 3D printing is neat. It has just a little bit of a texture to it. It doesn't really come through, I don't think here. No, there
Sure,
it
it
goes.
does a bit,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Show us
So-
the sides.
I
So
like
it's not
it.
all stripedy 3D printed looking. It's just kind of textured. It's nice. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, you can hardly see any lines in it at all. I mean, there's no. I mean, you know how sometimes you get the lines and it's
Yeah.
I can see just a little bit. It's almost as if I can see a little bit of a line pattern here. It's almost like it's printed diagonally
Yeah.
this way versus this way.
Well, not necessarily, because my 3D printer will go ahead and do its fill on a layer diagonally.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. But yeah, no, they do a really nice job. So, and they've been very responsive, and I think they're open to other ideas too. So if somebody, you know, had a particular project that they had that they wanted to get a case for, or even just printing up some cases, even if there was something that's already out there, you just don't have a 3D printer. I'm not trying to speak for them, but I think if you had the files, you just needed it printed, you might.
Well,
they
I was
might
going to
even
ask you a
open to
question,
that.
Brian, because you might know the answer to this. Ian Maverick does some reproduction boards like the R232 is one I happen to know. And of course,
Mhm.
that's a bigger case. But does he do floppy controllers? Does he do a 501?
Yes, he does. Yeah, matter of
And
fact,
is
there was
it-
somebody on Discord just the other day had asked that question. I posted a link. He has like 3 or 4 of them still out on eBay.
But does his come with cases, or are they just the raw board?
Just the raw board, and I believe just the components. You have to solder it up yourself.
Okay, because this would be a good thing to link up with, and maybe even actually, you know, work together to make a commercial product if somebody
Mhm.
wants to get some old floppy controllers.
Right?
Will that work with a gimme?
Work with a gimme.
Yeah, what do you mean?
It's that I don't know any other way to say it. I mean, is it compatible?
Oh, the math coprocessor bit.
Yeah.
With
Oh, the
with
math.
gimme.
Yeah, the math
Yeah.
code processor is just doing the math. So you would have to I believe you have to poke this. So you'd poke the data to the math.
Yeah, then you'd have it call a
coprocessor.
function like do a, you know, a 32 by 32 bit hardware divide or something like that, and it would do it, you know, 10 times faster than doing it in software.
Yeah, I don't fully understand it either, Ron. I do want to educate myself a little bit more. It's not like you just plug the cartridge in and you're suddenly adding some functionality that the CoCo is going to utilize automatically.
Right, right.
You
Like
you
a
have to write a
PC was in
program.
the
Yeah,
past.
Yeah, you have to write a program to make this thing do what you want it to do.
It's like putting a 609 in it, because if you just plug it in, you don't have software that knows a 609. It's just going to run like a 6809 because it doesn't have a clue. So when you start rewriting software or adding enhancements to software to detect it and use it, then you'll start seeing some major speed increases.
Right. So whenever Microsoft Basic tries to do a multiply, you can hook that and send it to this thing rather than have the CPU go through the multiply routine that Microsoft Basic has. And this would therefore save a lot of time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what all functions this had compared. Like, what I think it had certain support, I think, for some IEEE standards or something. I can't remember off the top of my head now.
Why wouldn't somebody make that a board that would fit inside the computer? Then you would have to have a slot taken away from your multi-pack.
Well, because everything in especially in a CoCo 3 and later CoCo 2, since everything's soldered to the board, you're gonna have to desolder chips and stuff to put it in, which is a bit complicated. Some people don't want to risk, damaging their CoCos trying to do that.
Right, this plugs in, so yeah.
It'll help spur the sales of multi-packs. No, go ahead.
Yeah,
that's right. And Curtis, you and I were talking about this. I've always been interested in fractals, and you were explaining to me that like not all fractals use the right type, this kind of math that this thing does, and so
yeah, it depends on which type you're doing. Yeah,
right.
What about a Vectrix?
Were you doing all the line drawing?
Yeah, that's all math, right?
Yeah, right now it's ROM routines and the Vectrix itself written in 689 assembly language. We've been talking about possibly doing an upgraded Vectrix ROM with a 6309 for that matter.
But yeah, I'd like to see what kind of math this thing could do, and maybe do some kind of graphics related to it, and might be kind of fun. But it'll be a project down the road. I have a lot of other things I want to get done first, but I just had the opportunity. I knew they were going to be at CoCoFEST, and so yeah. And if you guys didn't get a chance to meet them at CoCoFEST, they're a really wonderful couple, and they're doing some nice products out there. So,
yeah, they praised us on one of the VCF wrap-up things too for coming out to the show and stuff too, which is nice. And they were on the Retro Computer Roundup, I think, as a guest, and they talked about us, kind of coercing them to come to CoCoFEST on short notice.
Oh, yeah, that was like we ran across them at VCF, and I think Sloopy was the one who was saying, "Hey, you ought to come over."
Yeah, they mentioned Sloopy specifically.
Yeah, they made a really nice joystick. Let me reach over my shoulder here. You don't have to spotlight me though, but you guys are probably all seeing their joystick that they made there. So
there's a few of us with one.
Yep, and it plays really well. I like it.
I like the arcade buttons. That's the part I really like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, coasters. Like
Yeah.
Ron's showing there. They also make coasters, and I got one of those too.
Yeah, they were really cool.
Did you get the Ghostbusters one?
No, I stuck with the CoCo related stuff. So,
well, I did too.
I would love to have a multicolor 3D printer. Yeah, they're still wicked expensive.
Yep.
Well, when you have a business, you can.
Yeah, when you're doing the amount of printing they're doing, like they're doing multi-platforms, like the code's just a very small part of what they use. So, I mean, there's a ton of stuff they're doing.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've got like I said, I've got a 3D printer, and I paid. I think it's like it's an Ender 3 or something like that, and it does what I need it to do. And quite frankly, until and unless I find myself in a position where I'm actually needing to make money, actually making money off of it, no need to upgrade right now.
It's kind of interesting, Henry. You said I've got a 3D printer. I immediately envision an Ender 3. Unless specified otherwise, the printer you have is an Ender 3 or a clone of it. That's what everybody has now.
Yep.
And like when we had no printers, now everyone has one of those. So we need the colors. We need to.
Yeah, they're easy. They're easy to get into. I mean, they're easy. The ease of entry is just amazing. Like that thing was just so. It was practically like out of the box. Turn it on. Turn it out of the box, put it together, turn it on. It levels itself. It takes care of everything that it needs to do by itself. And my first print was successful. So, and what did I do? I ran the Benchy with the included, crappy TPU or whatever the heck that stuff is, or PLA.
So this must be a different one than Rick Adams had, because he had nothing but problems. He ended up getting rid of it.
Oh, they changed a whole lot in the last couple of years.
Because he was not
and
impressed.
now you get an Ender 3 clone, you run it through 10 spools of plastic through
So,
it. It's still doing fine.
David Lord has an interesting thing he said. He said multicolor printing is much slower and wastes a lot more plastic, but looks cool. I'm wondering, David Lord, if you're thinking of multicolor printing with a single tool head, because there
Ooh,
are
yeah.
multicolor printers out there that have a tool head per color, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tool heads. Brian, are you okay?
Yeah, there's some major static there.
He's in a waterfall.
Well, he's known for audio, isn't he?
Yeah, he's known for it.
You're spewing static there, Brian. That's it.
I think he's gone to the toilet.
And we can't hear you either.
There he is. There he went.
No audio from you.
Something
Just
is
running static.
decidedly wrong in your audio routing.
He went to the toilet.
Yeah, it was the Grand Simulator. That's what he was running.
Oh, come on.
You want to see a grown man cry?
Yeah, really. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. That's better.
Yeah, I'm just using the my camera mic. I got a new computer system, and it's just like
Everything's broke as soon as you install it. Yep.
So
yeah,
just route
exactly. And it's not Linux.
route absolutely everything through your ATEM Mini or ATEM whatever the heck it is. All your audio, all your video, and just press buttons on the ATEM. It works so well. At least it does for
I
me.
know. I use OBS, but the mic wasn't working with it, so.
Well, I mean, I use OBS as well. I'm just running my mic through my mic through my ATEM Mini.
Yeah. Either way. I've thought about it.
So
Anyway,
how you been? What you been doing?
Huh?
So how you been? What have you been doing?
Oh, getting into the thingiverse of 3D printing and doing a whole bunch of other stuff and that, and amateur radio stuff, just work, fun stuff. That's what I've been doing. And yeah, the FD501 is a little bit shorter. I put it into text. It's like 102 long millimeters.
Oh, okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, welcome to Nick, who's joined us as well. So, Nick, we booked our CoCoTECH already while you were gone. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're glad you approve.
yeah.
Yep.
What are we talking about again?
Yeah, so
Right.
it's not going to be this next week. It's going to be the following Monday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, I'll get my.
And we'll
new
figure out
clip.
the time for you later, but
Yeah.
it'll give you a bit of extra time if you need it.
Sometime Tuesday morning for you.
And Nick,
Okay.
since you weren't here, Nick, Curtis assigned you to bring in the donuts. So
The donuts.
Yeah. Otherwise, we might have a donut dilemma.
I want mine with maple on it.
Okay.
I'd like my donut with cheese, please.
Cheese on a donut.
Vegemite and you'll like it.
Just don't try the dingo donuts.
Where am I going to fit the cheese with all the icing and sprinkles and everything else I put in my donuts?
Marmite or die.
Curtis, do you really want to know where you can fit that cheese?
On a side plate's where I'd put it, because I'm not having anything interfere with all the sugary goodness I'm putting in my donut.
Okay, next up we have Grant.
Yeah, so I'll just give everybody just a quick little update here. CoCoFEST for 2025 will be held the first weekend in May, which I believe is the 2nd and 3rd of May, I believe. Let me verify that real quick.
Friday the 2nd and Saturday's the 3rd.
Yep, that's it. So just to let everybody know, I'm still trying to figure out the details on doing the Friday, Saturday show versus a Saturday, Sunday show. I am leaning towards the Friday, Saturday show because it seems like that seems to work better for a lot more people. So,
So the second won't be with us.
the what?
The second won't be with us.
Unlike
The force be with you.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well,
I
I
didn't
mean,
get it either.
yeah. So, I mean,
You guys
on
are
that
slow.
Sunday will be the teardown day. So we will be out of that room by noon on Sunday. So but they'll give Curtis 2 nights, Friday night and Saturday night, to do his jam session. So that might be a blessing
good.
or a
Or a curse.
horror story.
Depends who the booth is nearest the amps.
So, but anyways, that's the update right now on that. So we'll be soon as the get the contract finalized and everything like that, then we'll open up the hotel rooms and go from there on that. But yeah, we're looking at that first weekend. In fact, just to be honest with you, we'll probably do the first weekend in May from this point forward, because April is just a little iffy in Chicago with their little ice and snow issues that they have up there.
And us too.
Then, yeah. And then on top of that too, April's getting pretty busy with other shows. So I think the first weekend in May is going to be the best time to do it. So.
And did you guys sign the 2-year contract? Like for sure, it's going to be the first weekend in May next year as well, like 2026.
So yeah, I have both of those weekends reserved, but they're doing 2 separate contracts, so it's not one contract. Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, so we'll have it for both first weekends in May for both 25 and 26. So, and I'll get something typed up as soon as we get everything finalized and the rooms open up. I'll put a post up and let everybody know that as well. So.
Sliding ahead, just ahead of Mother's Day and before the bridal season. So.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because you don't want to wait too much further in May. You'll be in the middle of wedding season, and that's a mess.
We'll have to start thinking of a theme for this show, or no?
Wasn't John Mark Mobley had some theme he was thinking of, wasn't he?
I thought we were also looking at 86ing themes in general, because
nobody does anything with themes.
Nobody does it.
Yeah.
Oh, we did last year, didn't we?
Just on shirts. Not too many people actually did anything with their
only 2
tables
people only did things with their tables.
Yeah.
You mean nobody dressed up as the?
Nope. You guys are a bunch of boring old farts.
Yep, we're just.
Thank you.
Useless.
I couldn't afford to pack anything other than my CoCo stuff.
Proud of it.
So the idea being there, Grant, is that vendors would come in on the 1st, and then we would have all day Saturday or all day Friday, all day Saturday for the CoCoFEST, and then give more opportunity for possibly more speaking events, or spread it out and more time for the auction.
Yeah, well, the problem is that Sunday's a wasted day because everybody packs up and leaves between 10
they're
and
gone
11.
hours before the show officially ends.
So Sunday's a wasted day. So why should we pay for Sunday when we're not going to be really using it? So, but yeah, I mean, Saturday will still be the big day. Friday probably at noon is when everything will start kicking off or anything like that. So, like I say,
are you going to do load in on Thursday?
Yeah. Yep. Thursday will still be
we
load in.
Still have till noon Sunday to leave.
Yep.
So we can still pack up all our stuff and still eat Sunday afternoon, and you can
So therefore you don't have to worry about tearing stuff down at. You're not. Therefore you don't have to worry about tearing stuff down at 2:00 in the morning after Curtis does his jam session and kills us all with this bad singing.
Right.
No, if I was trying to kill you, I'd be trying to sing too.
So that's the plan right now, and I think from talking to you guys and some other people too, I think that's the way we're going to go. So we'll give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, then we'll revert back to the other way we did back for the next year. So, but yeah,
as I mentioned previously, when we talked about this, I was against it at first, but the more and more I think about it, I think you're right. It's better this new way, but we'll see, like you said.
Yeah, because I pretty much talked to a lot of people. I was like, "Why are you guys packing up so soon?" Well, we got to be checked out of the room by 11:00, so we must.
Or have a plane flight to catch, or various things.
Exactly. So hopefully it'll work out. And I know a lot of other shows are doing the exact same thing as well. So hopefully this will work out for us as well.
Yeah, eventually we'll just become a full week-long show, and you just pop in whenever you want type thing.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's all I had for my update. Then, like I said, just be looking for a post here once we get the hotel rooms up and going. I'll let you guys know.
Okay, cool. I will start adding that on the weekly, updates on what shows are happening, since we've also got VCF dates for VCF East, I think, has been announced for 2025.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically no t-shirts then for the next show.
No. You can still do t-shirts.
CoCo t-shirts.
Ron, we had t-shirts with CoCo themes for decades. This switching off onto side project things there's been relatively recent. Like what was the one in 97, was it, Brian Shipping? Was the MIDI Mayhem edition t-shirt?
Yep. Yeah. Is my audio sounding better now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. I got to OBS work right.
So it's going to be FujiNet Force or something for.
Yeah, it could be something like that. It could be this Math Pro processor card, or who knows? Yeah. Still a lot of opportunities to make themes. I think going with the third-party themes that are outside the CoCo realm is where certain people are certain fans of certain things, and certain people couldn't care less. Plus, occasionally, if you pick something that can get, in legal trouble, which did happen. That one T-shirt
Copyright
design got
strike.
redesigned,
Yeah.
3 times because it kept getting
Yeah,
notices?
exactly.
Like, that's
Yep.
just a headache for everybody involved. So, like, why push your luck?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, in every single event that I've been to, one at least like as amateur athletic events, when we're doing things for work and stuff like that nature, when we have merch, the merch isn't necessarily based on a theme for the event unless it's a theme that's company wide in our company. But the merch is generally going to be based on, like, okay, this year's VCF or this year's this year's 6-gap century or something like that. There will be designs done for it. So there's like an official design for that year and for that event that changes from year to year, rather than trying to find a different theme for every year. And that way you have like the standard branding that you just like sell merch with your standard branding, and you sell merch with your annual branding. So people who have FOMO can miss out and still buy this T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, that's how Rainbow Fest and CoCoFest used to do too. Like Rainbow Fest, I remember, I think it was 91. The theme was the Coco Cat, and was prominently featured on the T-shirts. And then CoCoFest, we've had all kinds of stuff. Like I was mentioning, the MIDI Mayhem music, that was the 97 one. Just happened to stick out in my head because Brian joined the call. But we've had various themes along various things there.
And I created that T-shirt too.
Oh, did you? I didn't realize that.
Yes, I did. I designed it.
I got the buttons still up here somewhere too.
Yeah, I got mine around here somewhere too.
And we've had like OS9 themes, and we've had, we can have gamer themes or whatever we decide each year, and maybe just take, votes from the panel or just from the public in general and see if they got to pick a theme. Or if somebody knows a big product announcement's coming, you can make that the theme.
So what happened to joining the whole thing with Model 1s and 3s and 4s? And remember, I think it was last year or earlier in the year, we were talking about opening it up wider to more Radio Shack
I know we were
stuff.
talking about, but that's basically Tandy Assembly already, isn't it?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
yeah, but they were talking about it for our show.
Yeah. As from what I gather from a lot of people, they didn't want to do that at this point because we're still growing and everything like that right now. So why?
I just wondered where that went.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about having more Tandy Assembly related events. They already have one at VCF Southwest. They have the Tandy Meetup on Saturday, where a lot of the old Tandy work guys get together along with some, more modern people. They have their other gathering. They've had 2 now, I think, in San Francisco area, where they basically have a guest, and it's just like an afternoon type thing. They interviewed Bill Hogue of Big 5 Software here this last time. So, I mean, Tandy Assembly's kind of covering that, and they've got several side, projects as well as the main Tandy Assembly too. So, but the CoCo community by itself is still growing. So, yeah, I don't know if we need to expand it more.
I also talked to one of the presenters too. They are looking to move. I think this might be their last year in Ohio. So I think they're kind of hinting about moving to Dallas. So to a better location. So if they move to Dallas, then I'd go in a heartbeat.
To
pick me up on the way through.
Tandy Assembly.
Oh, I thought you were talking about moving ours.
Oh, no.
No, we might move to a bigger hotel if we keep growing. That'd be about it.
Yeah, what's
That'd be
going to
good.
happen with all these extra rooms and stuff we had to deal with?
What do you mean extra
It's
rooms?
going to be,
You mean
it's
the
going to
side
be the
rooms?
same thing this next year, right?
Yeah, it'll be just like it was this year.
Okay.
Or are we gonna get that room on the opposite side of, on the other side of the pool? You got that T-shaped room for the auction that we had for seminars, and then are we gonna get the room that's straight across the hall from that for the auction?
Yeah, it's already it's in the contract. So if we
Okay.
need it, it's there. If we don't need it, we don't need it. So
Because that should
Okay.
make communications a lot easier.
Yeah. Also, welcome to Terry Stinky, who's actually popped onto the call. Did you have anything to mention, Terry?
Hey guys, nope. I just finally got done with softball games, all my grandkids, so I can actually start being on the show again. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. I know you and Mark will be working on, or at least discussing, setting up a CoCoTECH section on the CoCoNation website with accompanying materials. I don't know if you know anything about that yet.
You do now.
I did not send him a message about that yet.
Okay.
I did send him one about the OneDrive, though.
Yes, I think we got that fixed, Mark, hopefully.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear that you're already pre-booking for 2 years, and I'm really cool with trying the experiment of shifting it to the the Friday Saturday versus the Saturday Sunday. I think that will work better for people getting flights out and stuff and trying to get back to work by Monday.
Exactly. So it seems like it's easier to get Thursday off versus a Monday too. So I hear.
Well, and as an old man, my Saturday show will be much better for not having to sit up Friday night, Saturday morning. It's just
yeah.
Yeah,
the fact that the emphasis is still Saturday, like that's not moving. The main day is Saturday. That I actually think will help too, because some people won't be able to come in Friday,
right,
because of work or whatever. But
that's when most people from Chicago are going to be coming in, is on Saturday still. So
yeah,
the locals, and that's when we'll still do the auction.
And I don't think we didn't get too many locals coming in on Sunday, even as it was, because they'd come in and go, well, half the tables are empty, so why am I bothering?
Right, they come in, they're gone. Yeah.
So we'll give it a shot and hope it'll work out well. So.
Cool.
It can't get any worse than it has been.
Hey, the numbers have been growing. We don't really have a problem, honestly. We had some
the numbers are great.
Specific
It's the show that.
I know I got good feedback on the talks I was involved with, so hopefully everybody else who gave talks as well.
I've had nothing but good, and also special thanks to Randy too. He did a great job this year getting those all recorded and everything too. So
yeah, thank you, Randy.
Yeah, no complaints this year for me on that. There was some complaints in previous years, everybody knows, but that was all fixed this year. The only thing we got to do is just kind of reroute that main presentation room so that people can see around the corner by flipping the front to back.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Okey-dokey. All right, we ready to take commercial break and take a stab at Game On?
Yes, with our guest host, Mark B. He's even got the shirt to prove it.
This should be real fun.
This will be fun.
Are you in your cabin?
Yes, I'm in my cabin.
Such as it is.
Mm-hmm.
The cabin of.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCoNation show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
Hello everyone, it's your good buddy, your good pal Amigo, and joined by that dastardly The Brent from ARG Presents.
You're watching CoCoNation.
I feel like that should have been longer.
The CoCoNation show would like to thank the following patrons: Alex Gare, Brendan Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Kieran Anscombe, Coconut Bob, Daddy Burrito, David Ladd, Derek Smithson, Diego BF109, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Frederick Segard, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Wabke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Kevin Holloway, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, TJB Chris, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., William A. Things. Thank you so much, patrons. If you would like to support the CoCoNation show, sign up at patreon.thecoconation.com.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
Frank says, I got my first color computer too in November 1982. I joined the Raleigh, North Carolina Color Computer Club soon after and eventually became president for several years. I got rid of all my CoCo 2s and 3s, multi-packs, cassette and disc drives years ago, but have become nostalgic recently and decided that the CoCo Pi project was the way to go. One Gun says, hello, I am Daniel. Old-timer ham radio user and retro computer also. I own a lot of 8 and 16-bit computers, and a friend of mine gave me a Radio Shack TRS80 color computer too, but in white CoCo 1 case and with a not logical serial number. I am a 60-year-old electronics and computer technician. I live in Belgium and hope to find information about hardware. Modem Mouth says, I'm Jason W., from Allentown, Pennsylvania, still living in the Lehigh Valley. My father used his income tax return to purchase a 4K CoCo 1E board, with a pair of joysticks, cassette recorder, Space Assault and art gallery. Eventually got the CoCo 3 when it came out. I stuck with the CoCo until graduating high school in 1991. Hope to visit a CoCoFEST one day and meet you all. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Boysen, Glenside Computer Club, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCoNation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com.
See you on Discord.
And add to the list of patrons, The Break Key and Jason Warrens. Thank you.
Welcome everybody to the CoCoNation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Rommel's Revenge. We had a total of 16 players. We had Mr. Dave 6309 with 8,000, Mark B with 14,000, MarkO with 15,700, 8-Bits in the Basement 17,000, Sabhead 21,000, Damon Beals 23,000, Tasman and Canadian Retro Things tied with 38,000, Jim Rye 49,000, Ed Rhodes 50,000, Coconut Bob 65,000, L Curtis Boyle 69,000, Mike 72,000, Kieran 81,000, Dr. Ted 85,000, and this week's number one score belongs to Schenley with 125,000. Thanks everybody that played. We'll see you again next week.
And the CoCoNation salutes Schenley. Sounds
Salute! That's an
Okay.
impressive score for that game.
So both Ken and Sloopy are unavailable this week, so I'm filling in. I will attempt to anyway.
Shirt and all.
Yep, dug the shirt out and give it a shot. All right, so let's see. The Rommel's Revenge was the game's second week, so that one closes out. As I recall playing it, it actually, to me, it played pretty well.
Yep, it definitely benefits from the double speed poke on a CoCo 3. So if you have one, or if you have a SAM doubler or something like that for a CoCo 1, 2, or a Dragon, and there are a few of those available now, it does definitely play better, a little bit smoother. But it's the closest clone of Battlezone the CoCo has, and it's actually my favorite out of the two common ones, even though the other one has a bit of color. As far as strategies go, on later levels especially, keep moving. Because if you stop and one happens to appear right beside you and it happens to be facing towards you, you'll just get shot right away. If you're actually moving, they sometimes will miss on the first shot or two, so it might give you some time to react. The other one is when you've got the torpedoes or whatever they're called, they're coming from the sky and they kind of zigzag towards you. Just start driving backwards and it'll actually slow down the amount of time it takes to get to you, and then you just time the shot to hit them when they're in the middle. And you can pick them up every time if you do that.
Tell you though that tank needed a backup camera.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you'd back into like a pyramid or something. Why can't I move?
While it's flashing in the corner up against an object.
Yeah, at least in Rommel's Revenge, it tells you have an object in your path. On
Yeah, actually, has that little readout where it tells you like enemy to the front and right, and obstruction or whatever it says to the rear or something like that, so you can actually tell you ran into something.
Yeah.
Which the original arcade game does not, from what I remember.
don't remember specifically. I think it did. Maybe not all of the messages, but some of them. Enemy to right or left.
Yeah, you're coming in a little quiet there, Bob. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
just.
I can barely hear you, Bob.
Probably help if I put my microphone in front of my mouth.
Yeah, that helps.
That would be helpful.
But yeah, actually, I was kind of surprised at how different the play style is between Rommel 3D and Rommel's Revenge, both on the color computer. Like on Rommel 3D, you just want to back away constantly, just always be backing away and shooting. But that doesn't work on Rommel's Revenge. You actually want to go towards the tanks.
Yeah. Because the nearer you are, the faster you can get out of their range of, trying to line up the shot with you type thing.
A lot easier to hit, too.
Yeah. I also like the fact that it has all the elements of the original Battlezone. So it has the torpedoes, it has those little saucers that you hit and they kind of fade off the distance. Like that's not even in Rommel 3D. So
no.
So I this is one that I had not discovered until quite late. Like that was a UK game, and I didn't see it for the first time until God, it must have been the early 2000s or something, like way after I'd bought in Rommel 3D from Mictron back in the day. And I was quite surprised at how good it is, and kind of quite jealous of the UK people on that one.
So I'm going to put the Thursday show up here so we can see some footage of Rommel's Revenge.
Now we see Mark Overholzer are playing it there, and he just cracked his windshield getting hit.
And I think this second one will be showing it here too. Okay.
Also, for those watching the screen, of course, our second game was 2048. Which is a popular game on a multitude of platforms. This particular one was written by George Jansen, who did our CoCo 3 assembly tutorial videos. And this was a game he released got to be a year or two ago already, I think, at least. And if you're wondering why we got two different colors running, that's the RGB versus composite palettes there. Now, it's supposed to be grayscale, like the one in the upper right corner. But actually, from watching the comments, a lot of people preferred the red because it's got a higher contrast background. So a lot of people were playing it, quote unquote, in the wrong color set on purpose. Oh, there's a cat on Mark there.
A cat is a hat.
So, fun little thing. Last week, I had mentioned that I might come on Thursday and just go ahead and write it in BASIC while on Thursday night. Well, two things. One, I just fell asleep on Thursday, as is my normal thing, doing a close open on a Wednesday to a Thursday. And then two, during the show last week, I was actually writing it in BASIC. And it's not as obvious as you might think to write that. The algorithms are simple, but actually implementing them is not necessarily obvious.
Yeah, I'd have to talk to Jim Gary because he actually made an MC10 version. Now, somebody was playing that. I don't know if it was this past week or the week before, but somebody was actually, I think it was Buck Owens was playing in the MC10 version as well, which of course Jim Gary, did in BASIC. So it'd be interesting to see if he had trouble doing that, getting it to work properly as well. Would that be a good fourth project once your fourth compiler's done, Henry? Or is that something that the game style is just not really conducive to fourth?
Oh no, I mean just about any game style is going to be fine. That'll be perfectly fine to see how it works on fourth. But and also it'd be a good exercise once I get everything going, because spoiler alert, I'm working on variables and variable storage, and it's turning out to be, he says, hoping and praying he's not kicking himself in the teeth with this, it's turning out to be a bit simpler than I originally thought it would be. So,
oh, that's famous last words.
Right.
Tell me about it.
You're doomed now.
Okay,
Scott
Cooper parsing yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Scott Cooper's mentioning in the chat, is there a fix for 2048 to stop the rollover at 10,000? George did send me one by email. Now, I wasn't able to make the show. I did forward it to Bob and Jim Rye. Did any of you get a chance to throw that on a disk image?
I did not. I think I heard Jim say that he tried it and it did not work, but I don't have any details.
Okay, I'll have to see if I can get some time today or tomorrow to try it and create a disk image, because he sent me the raw bin file, not a disk image.
Yeah.
And it does require some data files on the original one, so you can't just create a new one with just that. So that might have been why he was having problems. Maybe he just tried to create a disk image with the new one. But it should be able to handle scores hard. Because I did see somebody, like we saw multiple people wrapped it, and then somebody wrapped it twice. Just recently in the last day or two. So yeah, it definitely needs higher than a 9999 score.
Yeah.
But you have another week to play that. So if I can get it up and running there, then I'll put it up so people can put in screenshots with all at least 5-digit scores.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm trying to remember, like I didn't get much chance. I was kind of busy with work this year, but I think there was some other either bug or something else that could be patched up a bit in 2048 that people were talking about. I just very briefly looked at Discord, so I didn't get a chance to delve in, and I don't remember what the specific detail was. Does anybody else recall seeing another issue besides the 4-digit wrap score?
I don't know, but high score of 10,000 is not an issue for me.
Well, I know of at least 3 people have wrapped it once, and one has wrapped it twice in the same game. So it definitely needs to be higher, which I think he's fixed on the new bin that I had emailed off to, or sent it through the Discord, I think, to Bob and Jim. So, Bob, would you have a chance to try that today, you think? Or
yeah, I could probably give it a shot. I'll have to brush up on my tool shed skills, but I need to do that.
If you can, for any reason, just send me a Discord PM private message or something, and I'll do it. I probably won't be able to do it right after the show, but a little bit later tonight, I might be able to get to it if you haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, right.
And then I can give some feedback to George if there's any problems. But I think he's kind of tickled by the fact that it's been pretty popular. Like a lot of people have been playing it, and
yeah,
a lot of people are saying, once you get, like when you first try playing it, it's kind of hard to understand from reading the directions exactly what the heck you're doing. And then once you start getting into it, you kind of figure it out. Then you start figuring out strategies, et cetera. And I know Buck and a few others have talked about specific strategies. And then I've been seeing multiple comments, people saying it's quite addicting once you get into it, which I heartily agree with. And it's a game that it's a casual game. It doesn't take a lot of time out of your day. You can play it for like 2 minutes and you're done, type thing. So you don't have to like sit there and save the state or leave it or running or whatever else. You can just dip in and dip out at your leisure.
And yeah, Scott's right. If you do change from RGB to composite, it does reset the game. So don't do that in the middle of the game.
Oh, that might be the bug. Okay, let me write that down. I'll have to suggest that to George as well, if he's not already watching. I know he was in the chat last week's episode. What is the rest of your guys' thoughts on 2048 for those of you who tried it?
I liked it once I understood what we were doing. So
yeah, and that seems to be everybody. That's kind of what they say. Like at first, it's like I don't have a clue what's going on here.
It's a really fun, lightweight, little puzzle game to play, and it's like it constantly gives you that little dose of, hey, I'm making progress, while still allowing for the appropriate level of frustration.
Okay, and so yeah, even just randomly hitting the arrow keys, I did manage to get 1,000, but I did do a lot better when I was actually trying to do it properly.
There's the mark of a good game.
I had the opposite result.
Well, there's the mark of a bad player.
Yeah, well.
Like me.
Also, I just saw in the chat as well, Scott Cooper mentioned, also once Buck made it to 2048, he got his first square at the maximum score. It starts beeping after every single move, which would definitely get a bit annoying. So we probably should talk about that getting fixed. And I think George is actually in the chat. Scores should now show up to 99,999, but now we got the 2 other possible issues. If you get a chance to fix them, George, I'll actually get the disk image made for everybody. Or if you want to send me the disk image when you get the patches done there, just because it's a bit easier than having to import it manually with the bin. But basically, the monitor type, as soon as you change the monitor type of game, it wipes your score and restarts the game. So that would be kind of nice if you didn't do that. And the one that was just mentioned by Scott, that once you get your first square at 2048, that it beeps after every single move. If we can get that patch, that would be awesome too. But I think it's definitely hit. Maybe you should go write some games and put that as part of your CoCo 3 assembly language series. That might get a lot of people interested in it, actually, because it's a good game.
Okay. Let's see. On the Thursday show, we did have one. Sloopy was unavailable. So let's see. I think we had up to 7 people playing.
Yeah, I didn't even get a
At one
chance to
point?
watch. I was busy, so.
So scrolling through there. So yeah, so people played both games. Although early on, I think everyone was just doing the 2048. So cool. And as far as strategies on 2048, they're depending on where you take your next move, it will definitely affect how things go, because you could make a right move and a wrong move. You know what? Maybe an undo would be nice.
That'd be cheating, I think, for this type of game.
So, yeah, I don't have any real hard strategies. Just kind of look at it. It's like which move, left or right or up down, is going to get you the best opportunity to double up.
Yeah, and if you do a move and you have several numbers that match going in the same direction, you actually will convert multiple ones at one time, so you can actually free up spaces on the board. So I mean, look for some of those, especially if the board's getting full, if you can.
Or just avoid the board getting full.
Yeah.
Keep it low. So.
But I think was it Buck did a live stream where he actually gave some tips on Twitch? I think that's where he was kind of talking about that. He was explaining how because he's managed to wrap it past the 10,000 mark multiple times now. So he's obviously got some pretty good strategies there. Fortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch those either this week. So I just saw in the Discord that Game on Challenge channel there, he'd actually posted, yeah, this is my 23,000 and whatever score. So. Yeah, Scott Cooper says unlimited undo feature. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, that's cheating. I think that's cheating.
Okay.
That's just called the reset button.
Well, all you have to do right now is just switch the monitor type and just restart. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, there you go.
But it gives you options.
And for those watching, you can actually see the 2 different Battlezone clones running simultaneously. I think Bob was playing Rommel 3D, which is the color one in the top center.
Yeah,
and
right
then,
at the end, I started playing that.
That one also runs good at double speed on the CoCo 3 too, I might add. But still, if you want the arcade experience, definitely go with Rommel's Revenge. It's closer.
Yeah.
I find Rommel 3D is a lot easier. Was that your experience too, Bob? Or
I don't know. They both kind of have you get into a groove, and they're both kind of easy-ish. But I think, yeah, Rommel's Revenge is probably easier. Just takes a whole different strategy to play.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely some good games. So a big thank you to George, the author of the 2048 game, who's actually in our chat right now. It's a great casual game. It's a lot of fun, and we'll be playing it for one more week. So you can get scores in, and I will hopefully have that bin file up fairly shortly. I don't know if he'll have time to try to fix the other 2 bugs we mentioned here that are, more annoying than anything else. They're not fatal. But I'll try to have that up and re-upload it to the Game on Challenge thing, and I think he'll resubmit it. I think he might have already submitted the score fix one to the archive, though that sometimes takes up to a week, depending on how busy William is. But definitely looking forward to playing it and submitting some scores myself, since I didn't get a chance to get on this past week. I don't think I'll be getting Buck Holland scores, though.
Now, for the new game next week.
Yes. Did you pick this, Mark? Did Ken make you pick it?
The best I could come up with was Scriptsit. So
Well,
I think we need to let the audience give us some suggestions that we can vote
asked
on.
me to pick the game.
Spectaculator
Oh, okay.
instead?
Ken told me to pick a game, and I have picked a game. If you
Okay.
highlight my screen, you can actually see it.
Let me change
Oh.
things
Midtoy.
here. All right, go there and
Yeah, what use is an intern if he doesn't get to do something every once in a while?
Yeah.
so
Okay,
I
so this
kind of
is-
like this better anyway.
Hanging stack of
This is
lagpipes?
this is a type-in basic game from Hot CoCo. I think it was the January '84 actual first edition, first issue. Now this is actually slightly modified from the one on the SDC image. If you have that, basically the main difference is I took out the white blocks because it would count against you if you landed against the wall. The whole point is random colored blocks come out and you just hit any key to send it up and don't land next to the same color.
Oh, okay. Because when I took a first glance here, it looked like a bust out style derivative, but it's not
So
really.
this is an
Kind of the
anti-match.
opposite of bust out.
This is an
So, yeah.
anti-match.
Just hit any key and away we go.
Oh.
Okay,
Cool.
that's quite
You
different
get-
then. Okay, that's cool.
You get a point per block, no matter what color.
Did you use the double speed poke?
You can if you're brave.
Oh, you really get
And,
double speed.
You can also just mash the keys at the edges if you're feeling lucky, but then that happens.
So what's the
Yeah, what's the goal?
Okay, so the idea is no
Just
two
get as
blues,
high a
no-
score as you can get.
Yeah, but
no
how,
two
like
fillers.
what?
Fill as
No-
much of the screen as possible. With,
So why
uh,
wouldn't you just fill in every block, or is there's got to be some rule where you can't do certain things?
Well, the
right?
point is you can't land next to the same color.
So the two blues died because they're next
Yeah,
to
as
each
soon as
other,
I
and
hit
that's
this blue with that blue, my game ended.
So if you hit a purple next to the purple, that also kills you?
Too much plutonium in
Like
one
side by
area.
side?
Yeah.
You know,
If it's side by side or top to bottom, diagonal is safe.
you still die. Okay.
Okay, so diagonal safe, but if it's side by side or up,
Or
above or
directly
below, and you hit
below
the
it,
same
yeah.
color, then the game ends.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's this
And,
called?
This
Yeah.
is called
What's
Dang It, and I'm gonna drop the disc
This is
image
cool.
in the chat. And I'll
Actually,
also
drop it in the
throw
game on challenge
Yeah, I'll throw
on
it in
Discord.
there too. Yeah,
because the only people who get the chat here,
right, are
the people
here.
watching the show at this time. So,
So
and some people I think participate in the game on challenge without actually watching our show. Naughty boys, but
And YouTube doesn't let you transfer files.
I can truthfully say I've never played a bang it type game. This is new-ish.
It's pretty fun. It's one of the most fun games from any type-in game that I played.
Right? It's just the concept is off, which is good.
So it's like a reverse breakout with a little bit of Tetris.
Yeah, something like that.
yeah,
Like
kind
Tetris
of.
skills.
I'd call it an anti-matcher.
So this was from a series called Elmer's Arcade, and he would every month in Hot CoCo he would have a basic type-in game. Usually they were puzzle games, but
Yeah, and they're usually low res, if I remember too. He really favored the color basic. He didn't require extended for a lot of his stuff.
right.
I remember. Yeah. And if I remember too, when Hot CoCo folded in '86, I think he actually wrote for Rainbow for a bit too, if I remember.
Probably. But if you can get into the 30s, you're doing pretty good. Theoretically, I think the highest possible score is over 300. Good luck with that.
Is there a time limit before you have to launch, or can you just wander back and forth until you decide where to put it?
So yeah, that's a great question, and I forgot to mention, if you let a block go all the way across the bottom, you will lose a point. So it's
Oh, so you're
possible
not
to get
actually
a
moving
negative.
it. You're just doing the launch.
Yeah, you just hit the button when to send it up.
Okay, that definitely adds some complication I wasn't expecting. I thought you were controlling that.
If you let it just go all the way across the bottom, you lose a point. So you can get a negative score.
Okay.
Oh, so it's okay. So you got a little aiming strategy you got to use.
So
Yep.
does it randomly decide what direction it's going across, or does it reverse? What's it doing?
Yeah, it's a random direction and a random color.
Okay. Perfect.
Of course it is.
But when you fire, does it just reverse direction then?
Nope, it just sends out another block from one side or the other.
Whatever it wants to do.
And it doesn't bounce back the other way. Like if it, you as soon as it reaches the side, you're.
So you can kind of mash the buttons here to load up on the sides if you're feeling lucky.
Since we're talking about, you know, a game, it wasn't there a problem with any computers random, you know, in basic or whatever? Random
Yeah, it's pseudo random. Yes.
Yeah, it's not really random. And didn't
Right.
they have routines that they published like in Rainbow and stuff so that you can get more random?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, if you seed it with a negative timer, which is the 1/60th of a second VSync count, the internal counter that BASIC uses, then you could kind of seed it a little bit differently every time because the chance of you catching out the exact same 1/60th of a second every time when you start the game is fairly slim. But if you didn't do that, then yeah, it starts every time with the exact same sequence of numbers.
And then my trick was always to ask the user to type something because their typing speed would never be identical and therefore the random seed would change a little bit. You know, type your name. Okay, now that my random seed is more random.
I'm kind of surprised I even remember that.
Okay.
Do you know what the system requirements in this are? Because this is something that if it's not on the MC10 already, it probably could be put over pretty quick.
I know it'll work on a CoCo 1 or 2. It should be 16K or less. It might work on a 4K machine.
Do a print mem. Let's see what it says. Because it's all low res text graphics, so like the little blocks. So
yeah, that's about 3K of RAM.
Yeah, because you default 22,283. Is that the default?
23,847 maybe. But let's just do this.
Just do a cold restart and then just print mem then and then run it and see what the mem is after you run it. Because I think that'll be a 4K color basic.
There'll be an MC10 version by Jim Gary next week.
Right.
Or by the end of the show.
Right.
He's watching.
You already have
Yeah,
3
that's
days
right.
practice by next week.
So, but
Oh,
1K
yeah,
there,
that'll
if you
work.
run it, it'll take some variable space. It'll be a bit less than that, I'm guessing. That's pretty well word for word what I say every game I play.
Yep.
So have you put that up on the thing yet?
So I dropped the disk image in the Game On challenge on Discord. The Game On channel.
Save your score, you can get the game.
And yes, it looks like this just requires 4K of RAM. So any CoCo ever made, and the MC10 once Jim's done.
Right.
I'm not
Any
sure.
Dragon.
It might work directly in the MC10.
Oh, it's basic? Oh.
Actually, what you may want to do, Bob, is upload a second disk image and save it in ASCII. Because then you can load it on the Dragon and probably the MC10 pretty easily.
Oh, right. And they might just token.
Because the tokens are different on the Dragon for sure. So that'll need some translating. But if you save it in
Did the
ASCII,
M-
it should work fine.
Did the MC10 have a sound command?
Yes. Is it actually, I can't remember if it's actually sound or not, but it does have that 1-bit beep thing it does.
Right.
Okay.
And the heading key as well. Yeah, that looks like it should work straight on the MC10.
Yeah, I think it would. Pretty darn close anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Jim Gary might have it ready before the end of the show.
Even if it didn't, he'd probably still have it done by the end of the show.
He's testing it now.
It's only a K of typing, right? So
Well, there that is. I'll go ahead and get the.
He's OCRing the screen as we speak.
Or he looked up the Hot CoCo. Now, the first issue of Hot CoCo was July 1983. So if it's the launch issue, that would be the one to look at.
I think it was January 84. It's the first one on the SDC.
Okay.
So maybe that was when they started publishing the
disc and tape versions of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I might have that on the SD card.
Yes, but it's different. It still has the white blocks, and you will die if you land a white block next to the wall.
Which means that's just got to be fixed.
It matches. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In which case, let me.
My version, I eliminate the white blocks.
Let me guess. You've landed next to the wall more than once.
Yeah,
I did, but not a. That's. Heck. I'll have to sacrifice my mouse.
This is one thing I like about the Game On Challenge, because every once in a while you guys just dig out some obscure basic game that I've never seen before, and that actually turns out to be a heck of a lot of fun.
What was the issue that was in?
January 84, you said?
Yeah. In Hot CoCo.
8401. Yeah, let's see.
Oh, that was a lot better than my idea.
What was yours?
Scripts it.
One or two, though. It might have depended. One or two.
I didn't even get that far.
Or the OS9 version of Scripted, which was never released.
For the ultimate challenge.
Okay, there we go.
Cool. So one more week of 2048, we'll try to get the updated version of that up to you guys here today or tomorrow. And then, of course, the updated version of Dang It that Bob has patched to eliminate the white block issue will be for the next 2 weeks on the Game On Challenge.
Okay. Well, 60 already has a patch to make it work on an MC10. Gives a
Well, you're saying a naive load into the MC10 dies with a type mismatch error trying to use string, which is an extended basic command. I don't know why he did that. I mean, the author, Elmer.
To save typing out 25 spaces, no doubt.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing. So just pre-build that string first and just print that as an actual string. The string is actually an extended basic only command.
So that might be something that I did after the fact when I was modifying it too.
Okay.
I did
typing,
probably put some optimizations without thinking.
We should get the original one, maybe.
That's one Henry, I think, is fiddling with right now.
Oh,
which
one?
Okay. Yeah, I'm fiddling with the one that's on the CoCo SD image.
Is there a string command in that one? Can you see, Henry?
What line?
I don't know. I haven't looked. I haven't gone that far. I'm still trying to find the random.
I can see a sound random.
So he says that
line 150 has got a random.
Yeah, so does 140.
So 60 says that changing that string yields a BS error.
That's because he just changed the quote space code to a character string 32 or something like that. That's not the issue. String does not run on a color basic machine.
Oh, I had a different inclination, different
take
thing for BS.
Take on BS error.
Yeah. Different take on it.
Okay. Well, he's not using hex in here, so that drives me a little bit crazy, but understandable.
Hex only works in extended basic too.
Right. It drives me crazy because, when it comes to memory locations and things like that, I think in hex.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. If you want to keep this running on a 4K MC10 or CoCo, you won't be using hex.
Okay.
I mean, at some point today, somebody will have a new version of it uploaded, and hopefully an MC10 and Dragon version as well, ready to go. The ASCII version that Bob just put on there, that should work in the Dragon immediately, I would think. or the CP400 and the other CoCo clones.
Should.
Yeah, there's that string.
So he does have it.
Yeah,
So
it just
that's
seems odd.
drawing the
I mean,
borders.
it's being a bit lazy if you're trying to make it for 4K, I guess, but
You
because
could
adding
swap
that basically requires 16K in extended basic at that point.
And what I
That's
can't remember
probably
is what
just to set up the screen in the first place. You could probably replace that.
Well, you can just build a string, right? You know, make
Right, I mean,
BL
well,
string
okay.
for blank equals however
Yeah.
many that pass for.
Right.
Well, okay, so
Put 8 characters in
Hang
blank
on.
string and print it. several
Yeah, because
times.
string, the first parameter is how many characters you want to have in the string. The second is what character you want to fill that with.
Right.
How many of you guys
Okay,
have a
all right.
4K CoCo?
I don't anymore.
I don't either.
I wouldn't
well-
mind having one, especially if it's a D board. I would
My
love to
MC
have a D board 4K.
Yeah,
My
that was my original.
MC10 is easy to get 4K.
Yeah, or an Alice.
Well,
Yep, take the pack out.
Right.
Or, well, some of those have been modified with 8K inside, right?
Some have. I think of the 16K expansion pack or even the SD. What is the Darren Atkinson's 32K one with extended basic? What's it called? STX 32 or something?
That's it. Yep.
It should run on all those too. I mean, the bare minimum should be just 4K, except for the string commands. That's the only ones I see so far that require extended basic.
Oh, I think this version has been corrected. Let me look at this real quick. Because I'm seeing that line 380 there. If A equal 5, go to 370. Let me see. Still us.
Oh yeah, so if it's color 5, then pick a different random color.
Yeah,
It's like,
so yeah, it's already got it, so the whites aren't there. This one's fixed.
That's my code.
And this is on
No.
this is on the SD card. This is on the SD
That
card
can't be
image that
my
I just
code, then.
downloaded today. Like
Huh.
I literally today downloaded
Yeah, right.
it. Like right before the show. So hey, it works. I can play it. Woohoo!
Is this the title screen that we saw?
yeah, with
Yeah,
dang it with all the exclamation points and stuff. Yeah.
Another couple years we'll have digitized sound with the MC10.
You already do. Actually, we demoed it last week.
No, I mean on that
Digitized
program.
Anyway, you can play it on pretty well. Any cousin of the CoCo will be able to play this by the end of the weekend. So
Oh sure. Oh, absolutely.
absolutely, any
strings
one
should
of
be-
us, anybody watching with a CoCo anything or an emulator should be able to play it.
I can already see this is one of those "Why did I do that?" games when you launch a blue one right onto your last blue one.
Don't even need joysticks; it's just keyboard.
Right there.
It's like playing Ghost Rush.
Well, Jim,
Yeah.
Jim, that was a heck of a good choice.
Is it harder to play with the
Hang on.
CoCo 3's
That
cluster?
looks like a white block.
That
Well,
was a white
you just
block.
hit a
That
key
was-
to launch it, Ron. There's no.
That's
Oh,
it.
you're
You
not
got
moving
no
it, so-
control.
Yeah, those are white blocks. Okay. Gotta fix it.
Even Mark will be able to play it.
Notice we didn't say well, but yeah.
Yeah, I can play that. Yeah. All right.
Are you sure, Mark?
Yeah, I'll get at least level 1.
Well, there is only one level, I think, isn't there?
There is only one level.
Yeah, you got that.
You just play till you die, you run out of space, I guess. Unless there's something where if you fill in like 10 rows deep, you can clear the screen and start over again. It doesn't sound like there's anything like that, but I haven't really looked at it.
Nope.
Theoretical max score.
If you get it all the way down to the bottom, you can like deposit a color where one already exists. Like
Oh,
change
okay.
it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can go past it if you're really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And no cheating, putting in time delays between every thing so you can actually take time to figure out what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
Every
we're gonna
time we-
check some of your code.
Every time we see that keyboard, you start staring at LED.
Yeah.
Ah, help!
The disco cursor lives on the keyboard.
It's like the Eye of Sauron or something. It's,
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I'm
No,
not
it's
going to
an
leave it
AI
like
to
that,
that
but
code,
I
so that does it automatically.
the longer I leave it like that, the more I don't want to change it.
Yeah, really. Were you going to put a cap over it?
Yeah, I actually just put a dab of hot melt glue for today to just diffuse it a little bit, but yeah, it needs a.
Yeah, no,
little-
you need a
it's like
four-sided keycap that rotates so that the light moves around like the disco curve.
There we go.
Oh, see, I would use it for practical purposes. I'd have it under software control so you can change the colors or, on, off or whatever to indicate like caps locks on or off or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I'm gonna
actually-
do that.
I'd probably change one of those keys, Bob. Use one of the keys that has a built-in LED, and then change one of the keycaps to the translucent keys, and then that way the whole key could just light up, changing.
Really?
Feature creep.
No, sample register and have a little routine run in the background to change the colors based off of the RGB.
Right, so version 3 of the Artemis board lives.
We're getting there. Version 2 is on the way, and I actually did modify it where the LED connects. You can literally solder one of those little mini pro microcontrollers directly to the bottom of the board, and that's what's running this right now.
Curtis is now a professional solderer, so he could do that.
Right.
Boy, is that an exaggeration. I managed to get 2 wires soldered together after 10 minutes of trying.
And
that
you
was
still
the
have your hair.
accomplishment I did.
Getting 2 wires soldered together when you don't necessarily have the infra for it is surprisingly more difficult than you might think. Getting them to stand.
Oh, I know
together
how
and getting-
difficult it is.
Oh yeah, but it took you 10 minutes. Considering that you don't
I won't
solder,
mention again
that's-
how much solder it took, with repeated tries.
Doesn't matter. It took you 10 minutes. That's really darn good considering how often you solder.
Yeah. What I should have done is just tied the damn wires together and coat it with electrical tape, and I would have been done without any soldering at all. But
Right.
Soldering helps.
But I thought I should try once again, and it was just as frustrating as trying to design graphics for a game. So that's enough of that.
Sorry, Curtis, I couldn't resist.
I should have resisted. That's what I should have done. But
if Jason,
10 ohm or 100 ohm.
How many ohms was that, Curtis, for the resistance?
You're using words that go over my head. Is ohm like a yoga term? Like ohm?
It's futile.
There's my problem.
At any rate, we should get back to the game on challenge, since that's the segment we're actually doing right
There was
now.
a game on challenge.
If Jason was here, he would have said asparagus a long time ago, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he's not here, so we're doomed.
Yeah.
So actually, it's getting about news time, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but rather have carrots, not asparagus.
So the 2 games for next week: 2048 for 1 more week, and Dang It modified for 2 weeks. And Dang It, by the end of today or tomorrow, will be available for any 4K CoCo or cousin. In fact, every one of them. So
Okay. Go right into news.
This
Or-
show has produced software.
I don't have a big news chunk this week, so yeah, if you want, I can go straight into
Omnibus news.
Remember,
When you want the latest in TRS80, Tandy, Dragon, MC10, and all of their hardware cousins. No matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCoNation News with L Curtis Boyle.
And that's literally what happened when I soldered those wires. That's why my hair is so much shorter this week.
Oh, we thought you just had a haircut.
Well, I did to cover up the damage.
Them dang burnt
So anyway, just a bit of a sneak preview of our Tech Talk, CoCoTECH, that's happening next Monday, not the Monday coming up in 2 days, but the one a week from the upcoming one. Using SemiGraphics 12 and 24 in BASIC, and this is just a screenshot from one of the little demos. And this is an SG-12 one, but the little spaceship thingy there that's firing is drawn with SemiGraphics from BASIC. No ML routines at all. And even the score thing is actually done through BASIC too. So
not possible.
So just a bit of a sneak preview. It's going to be a dual person one. I'll be doing kind of the intro of the mode itself and how it works.
The other sucker you found.
Yeah, and then Nick Morendis is actually going to show what a real programmer can do with it. That's why he's on the show. So because I don't have a clue. So hey, Monday, July 22nd at what time is it at again? 7 p.m. Eastern. And there will be an accompanying PDF version of the slideshow, of my part of the presentation, plus a disk image that has both the demos that you can actually run to kind of see it actually running. And then you also have a little base code for SG-12 and for SG-24 that you can just merge in with your own program. Or you can just load it and then start adding to it to make your own game or whatever you want to do with that type thing.
Here's my problem.
Okay, so quickly to go through some of the upcoming conventions and trade shows, etc. We've got VCF West happening August 2nd to 3rd at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California. This is one that has become a full partner with the museum, so that your single admission will get you both into the Computer Museum itself as well as the VCF, which are actually two separate events, kind of, but they're kind of combining this year. Hopefully that continues on. It used to be that you had to pay for each separately. And of course, that is at the Computer History Museum at 1401 North Shoreline Boulevard in Mountain View, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. After that, and a big thank you to Henry on the panel today for giving me this one because I had no idea. This is the New England Classic Gaming, and they're actually having a swap meet of electronics and computers and consoles, etc. on August the 24th, starting at 9 a.m. Central Time at the Norfolk Public Library in Norfolk, Massachusetts. That's located at 2 Liberty Lane. I'm assuming you're familiar with this club. Did you want to say something about it there, Henry, so that people kind of know what they do? Is this, did they just, I assume they do more than just swap meets.
They just got started. They just got started meeting up, and it's a relatively new thing. I just found out about them, and I'm just excited that there's something happening in New England that I can go to. You know, I keep there was another group that I'm a part of, I think New England Vintage Computers, that they're like, hey, we started this so that we could possibly get something going. And I said, not for nothing, but I'm in Worcester, and that's pretty much equally far from everywhere in New England. So, you know, let's look at WPI and see if they've got something going on. These guys just said, no, we want to do it. And, you know, they did it. And I'm like, yes. So.
Yeah, because it looks like they had one meetup already here. They got a picture of some of the people that showed up, and this is back at the end of April. So just before the CoCoFEST, actually.
Yep, and you can see, and the one thing that I like about that is the age range is nice. You know, you've got it looks it doesn't look like a whole bunch of graybeards and you know everything.
Yeah, and of course that's what we want to see at every retro event. We want to be able to pass this on
Absolutely.
for the kids. Cool. Next, of course, is the big cojones, the VCF Midwest, that multiple people on the panel are planning and attending, and some are actually exhibiting at. And of course, it's September 7th to 8th, and September the 6th is for the vendors to get set up. This is at the Renaissance Schaumburg Convention Center in Schaumburg, Illinois, the original home of Rainbow Fest as well, and the first multiple years of CoCoFEST. Going to be a big one. Well over 1,000 people expected, probably closer to 2,000, I would guess, at this point. And hopefully we'll get some live on the floor coverage from there. If not, a whole bunch of summary videos from afterwards would be nice. And hopefully we'll get a lot of the CoCo community out there. Next up after that, we have the World of Retro Computing 2024, September 14th to 15th in Kitchener, Ontario, which is about 40 miles west of Toronto. This is located in the old Goodies department store, so it's a pretty big venue at 8 Queen Street North. Free admission. There's no admission fee whatsoever. And this covers all kinds of retro computers. And I think we had some live coverage from Frank Linares of Retro Rewind last year going, and he's one of the sponsors, I should mention, but he actually kind of took the camera around and wandered around. There's a whole bunch of like, there's free tables and stuff with free stuff, and there's, stuff you can buy. There's people that do repairs. They had that whole CoCo section set up from what I remember from last year. So this is an ongoing one, and it's kind of like the unofficial Canadian VCF, I guess, is probably what you could probably call it. So anybody that lives in Canada or lives near the Buffalo, Niagara Falls border type thing, it's not too much of a drive, like an hour and a half past the border or something, not even less. So it'd be pretty easy to get to. And hope to see some CoCo people there. I do know there's at least one person that is planning on actually having a booth, and that's Stacy Vetzel. And she's been talking in the CoCo Facebook group of setting up the booth, and she was asking some questions about getting some old ad copy and stuff for the CoCo from back in the day. So at least that person, but somebody else was exhibiting there last year too that actually had multiple CoCo setups. So I'm hoping there's a good CoCo representation at it. And of course, Frank will be there with his CoCo wares like the SDC. Next up after that is Tandy Assembly. Oh, I'm getting some beeping. That may be Henry, I think.
Yeah, it's me. I fixed it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So Tandy Assembly, September 27th to 29th in the Courtyard by Marriott Springfield in Springfield, Ohio. This one is $10 per attendee for Saturday and Sunday. And if you want to attend the Tandy Tech Track on Friday, it's then the fee is $30, which covers all day. So basically it's $10 for that day. And that's a whole bunch of technical talks. Now, I know on the last Trash Talk, they actually talked about that. I don't know if this website's been updated yet. Oh, yeah, it is. So I'll just rattle these off for those of you that are technical bent that want to attend some seminars. Tim Halloran, who's actually been doing a series of CoCo-related videos for the lead up to a Tandy Assembly, because he's actually retrowriting and upgrading and doing a bunch of things to a CoCo 1 that he has. Or was it a CoCo 2? I can't remember. Probably a CoCo 2. But he's going to be using a logic analyzer to understand and troubleshoot TRS80s. That's his talk. Jeff Burt is doing one on programming Tandy Pocket computers. Now, I know they actually had a basic on the Pocket computers, which is something that always intrigued me when I was young. And of course, you can carry it in your pocket, much like a smartphone these days. So that sounds interesting. Ian Maverick, all the way from Melbourne, Australia, is doing a talk called 1984, Tandy Joins the Big Boys, from sophisticated failure to unexpected success in 12 short months. Maybe next year he'll do the follow-up when it goes the other way, but should be interesting. And this is mainly probably talking about the Tandy 1000 series, which actually really took off when they were released. After the Tandy 2000, their first MS-DOS style machine did not do that well because it was not compatible enough. I'm a deep... Sorry?
I think it is about Tandy 1000s.
Yeah. Because, that was their best seller other than the CoCo. The two best-selling products in the computer line they ever did was the Tandy 1000s and the CoCo. So, next one is by Amardeep Channa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name, but he's a regular on the Trash Talk Live. He's doing the nuances of programming the FD1793 in a Model 3 and 4. So I was going to ask David Ladd, this is the same chip used in the original floppy controllers, the 12-volt ones for the CoCo, but it's for the Model 3 and 4. So with your loyalties to floppies, are you interested in this particular seminar?
I didn't know about it. It sounds interesting.
Because I didn't know if you were interested in programming like a floppy controller. Well, okay, I know you're interested in programming a floppy controller.
Well, yes,
but are you interested from it from the Z80 perspective is my question.
Yeah. Like, you providing the link for us all?
Well, this is a live tech talk at Tandy Assembly in September.
Oh, well.
Now, I have heard that they are likely going to be recording these and then putting them up for viewing afterwards.
Well, that's good because it's unlikely I'd be able to make it in person.
Okay. And then the last one's a color computer specific one. John Strong is doing one on interfacing with the color computer. I'm not exactly sure what all that entails. I think they did give a bit more detail on the Trash Talk last weekend. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. I also don't have in the news because we talked about the Trash Talk show last week because it was just a few hours after our show ended. But I should mention there was multiple CoCo representation on there, including me and Nick, and Tim Halloran talked about it as well. When they were talking about the stuff for Tandy Assembly, they were talking about there's a few other bits in there too, CoCo related. So if you have not already watched that show, and it was a big one, there was a big panel on that sucker, even bigger than ours. It's definitely worthwhile. There's a ton of stuff on all the various TRS80s, etc. But the there's a bits of CoCo content there you might be interested in as well. So I'd recommend checking that episode, episode number 40 it was. Next up, we got the Dragon Meetup 2024, which got confirmed dates just recently, which will be October 12th to the 13th at Cambridge in England. Unfortunately, I've asked a question over a week ago on the archive worldofdragon.org forums to find out if it's going to be at the Center for Computing History or the Museum of Technology. In the past, it's been at the Center for Computing History, except last year it got moved to the Museum of Technology because there was repairs being done on the roof on the first facility. And I have no idea if they're sticking to the new venue or if they're going back to the old one, because I did see some chatter going back and forth that a lot of people preferred the new one. And both of them are fascinating museums in their own right. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff to see even if you weren't going to the Dragon Meetup. But I'm hoping to get some confirmation on exactly which venue it's going to be at. We got the dates now, but I haven't been able to get an answer yet on that. I don't know if Karen or anybody else, Julian or somebody may have heard from people that, it's been confirmed from one venue or the other. If you have heard, just put that up in the chat and I'll mention it a little bit later on the show. And then the equivalent of VCF in England is the Retro Computer Festival 2024. And this is November 9th to 10th at the Center for Computing History in Cambridge, England. Now, I've always been kind of curious as to why they have this set up the way it is, where it just lists the one date. And that's because this is for booking the tickets, and you actually can click on a specific date and just book the Saturday or just book the Sunday. And that's why they have these separate pages. So this is basically just showing the Saturday date, but there's a separate page for Sunday. But basically, it's the equivalent of VCF. It's all platforms, all video game consoles, etc. So that's a nice one of their bigger shows that's covering everything retro from the 8-bits and the 16-bit era. So that'd be a cool one to go to as well. And then I don't have anything to show for it yet because it's not officially on their site, but the dates for VCF East, which is going to be at the same place it's been for years, which is the old Army barracks. I was going to ask Sloopy to give details, but he's unfortunately not with us today. But it's been confirmed for April 25th to 27th of 2025. And as you heard from Grant, we've also got confirmation on May 2nd to 3rd for CoCoFEST 2025. With a slim chance it could be the 3rd to the 4th, but it sounds like we're definitely going to experiment with the 2nd to 3rd, where it's going to be the Friday, Saturday, instead of the Saturday, Sunday. And that's it for shows. So I'll skip over to the very little bit of game news I have this week. And of course, one of them involves Jim Gary, because of course it does. Oops. That's not what I want to do. There we go. Okay. So first one up, Jim Gary ported a game called Solitaire for Two. Now, this was originally published in a tab book, that's the name of the book company, called Computer Graphics with 29 ready-to-run programs. And this was originally written for the TRS80 Model 1, 3, and 4 with Level 2 Basic. So he ported it and also colorized it up a little bit. It comes with some instructions, et cetera, as well. And I'll fast forward so you can actually see some of the gameplay. But, using low-res graphics, he actually does some pretty decent, simulations of the various suits of cards and stuff. Like you can see the hearts kind of almost looks like a Klingon ship or something, or the Enterprise. Well, it looks like it. This was originally written in 1981. I've never seen the original version of this on the Model 1 and 3. I'm kind of curious how they would have laid out the screen themselves. They have more resolution, but of course no colors. So, and then the second and final one of the Game On news this week is Expert Tech did a video playing the original Space Invaders by Spectral Associates. And of course, he does these on his real CoCo 2 with real joysticks and an amber monitor. And for those that are not aware of this particular one, this was called Space Invaders. And I'm surprised they got away with that as long as they did, because that's actually was a copyrighted name. And this one came out in 1981, so it's one of the earliest ones we had too. It came out before Space Assault from Tandy. I think Computerware might have had their version out a couple months before this. So it's either the first or the second. I think it's the second.
Oh, but this
one
one
unique-
is Color Space Invaders.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I think ComputerWare called their original just Space Invaders 2 and then had to change it, due to legal issues. One nice thing about this one, I don't know if many of you actually played it. I don't think we played this one on the Game On Challenge, but there is something a bit unique to it that you had to do something just to make it a little bit different. So the basic Space Invaders, same thing. You get the saucer across the top. You got the rows of aliens. You got the bunkers. You're firing from the little guy at the bottom here type thing. You can play on keyboard controls. But you'll notice over here, or you can play joysticks as well. You notice over here, there's this little line. And what that is if you have the second joystick hooked up, that's a shield. And you can move it around to block shots that it won't get self-destructed. But it's a very narrow thing. And you, of course, have to jump to the other joystick to move it around or try to operate both hands at once. So it's a bit of a challenge to use it, but it definitely adds a little bit of a twist to the game because you can actually, bring a shield along with you once your main shields are getting destroyed. So bit of unique gameplay there. I don't think I've seen on any other particular version of Space Invaders on other platforms, but might be one to put in the challenge just because it's got a bit of uniqueness to it.
Yeah, and if you've already duct taped your two joysticks to the Barca Lounger for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're okay for Project Nebula, I mean, go for it. I'm just checking the chat here because 60 was responding. Nothing for sure yet as to which venue for the Dragon Meetup. There was upfront interest in being at the new venture, and a suggestion it would be in the building that was used for the PYE exhibition last year. Then he corrects and says, Tony does say that those dates were specifically possible for the Museum of Technology. So that sounds like where it's going to be. And then Tom Eric Gunderson just mentioned that this particular Color Space Invaders we're looking at was sold by Dragon Data on cartridge. It was originally sold cassette only, and then I think later disc by Spectral in North America as Cosmic Invaders. So apparently the legal team had already gotten hold of from the Space Invaders guys to change the name. And for those of you who've not seen the game, I'll just play a little clip here. Sort of. There we go. Is it pausing for you guys too, or is that just on my end?
Pausing.
That's what it's doing.
Why is it doing that? I mean, the audio's coming through continuously, but the video keeps pausing for some stupid reason. See if I drop the res, maybe.
Yeah, I've had that happen also with YouTube and Zoom.
Yeah, dropping 720p seems to fix it. Now, he obviously doesn't know about the shield because he just leaves it slept off to the left-hand side. But to be honest, when I first got a backup copy of this game, I didn't know about that either. Anyway, that's it for the Game On news. Now I'll get to the regular news, which has a little bit more meat to it. So let me share a screen. Oops, that was the wrong button. I was just going to switch the share, not shut it off. Anyhow, there we go. So first of all, we got CoCo Town explores. He's done one of his little side videos here too. So he's been, kind of getting back to the game after he went on some other side, going down through sound and other things. So in this case here, he's actually decides to go after the keyboard access and the joystick buttons in assembly directly, not using the routines built into the ROM. So I'll let him do a little bit of an intro here, and then I'll fast forward because he's got a pretty neat utility he wrote for actually scanning the PIAs and, to actually read the keyboard, which is really well visualizes how the chip works, where you have to write out a strobe on, I always get this mixed up. I think you write out the column and read the rowers and vice versa. Nick, do you remember?
I'm trying to remember now. I think it's the column.
I just always copy the same routine, and so I just never remember.
Yeah, I think it's the column.
Okay, so you write out to the column you want to read from, and then you read the row back to see what keys are pressed. So I'll show his little demo because he wrote an ML program that actually visualizes that on screen. Actually, it's quite handy. Yep.
Hello and welcome. Today, a deep dive into your CoCo's keyboard. We'll talk about the ROM routine that BASIC uses and that you could use to pull your keyboard, and reasons why you might not want to do that. We'll talk about everything involved with talking directly to the hardware to access the keyboard yourself and not use that routine. We'll talk about some of the quirks of Peak 65280 and how the joystick buttons could interfere with your job trying to talk to the keyboard. We'll talk about how the peripheral interface adapter organizes the keyboard into a matrix and how you pull and query that matrix row by row, column by column. And no, we're not going to make any cheap jokes about the matrix. We're not going to talk about how I can't tell you about the matrix, you have to see it for yourself. Or, yeah, you want the red pill, you want to take the... Those are too easy. There will be no cheap references to the movie The Matrix here. This is a serious, interesting, informative video that doesn't resort to cheap, silly humor and dumb references to movies.
Perfect.
Nice.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, I thought that intro was well worth just playing it. And then definitely check out the video, but I'll show how his little keyboard thing works. So do the raw keyboard first.
Keeping up with where everything is. So if I start typing, I will see them highlighted immediately. And if I hold a bunch of keys down and all the cool stuff, and you can see on the left-hand side how they shimmer into zeros for whenever something is actually down. All right, so let's go over the code.
Now, I wanted to ask you hardware guys, because I remember from the software perspective, you should be able technically to actually tell, is every one of the 53 keys pressed simultaneously? I mean, technically, if you set all the columns to 1 or 0, I think it is to strobe it, and you read them all back, then you could actually literally every key. But I think there's some sort of electrical or thing where it actually can't quite keep up with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem you've got is called ghosting. In that theoretically, you should be able to, by polling every key, by polling every row, you should be able to detect that you've got every single key on the keyboard pressed down at the same time. But the problem is that the CoCo keyboard does not have diodes that keep it from backfeeding into another one. So if you have, like, say on this one, he has 5 left and 4 pressed at the same time. And if they're pressed at the same time, then when he pulls for 4, down will show up as being pressed because the current will go through, since there are no diodes to keep it from backfeeding.
Okay, because I do know some multi-key presses do work. I just couldn't remember what the specifics were.
As long as they're not going to ghost onto, as long as they're not going to ghost onto another row.
Okay, Rick, did you want to add something, or is that basically covered?
No, I was just saying he got exactly right, and all you have to do is throw extra money at it and fix it. But
yep,
that's not the Tandy way,
right? Well, but if you compare it to a modern keyboard, quote unquote, USB keyboard or something, every 5 or 6 keys is sort of grouped together where it has its own problems. So we haven't really lost any more than we've,
And why would you want to?
Well, I wasn't thinking like you're going to write a game or something that requires please hit all 53 keys simultaneously. It was more like if you have a game that has a lot of keyboard controls and maybe has modifiers for various things, you might want to use a shift and L to control.
When you start trying to combine keys, you get problems because, like you say, there are combinations that work and there are combinations that don't. And without much mental mapping, there's no way to avoid it. In fact, game keyboard science is pretty involved in what combination of keys can be pushed at once to do things in video games.
Yeah. Like I remember Gauntlet 2, which actually supports 2 players simultaneously on the keyboard, and you need 4 movement keys. You plus need a potion key, an attack key. And then 2 players are doing that, plus 2 people are using joysticks for a 4-player game. So that's where it starts to get complicated. And like you said, you have to really map out where the keys are. And that's what I want to point out. Because if you just read the PIA description, some of these semi-language books, it literally looks like, no, I could register whatever keys I want, whatever combination I want. I just remember reading, and I never really tried it myself, but I remember reading that there's physical
Well,
limitations.
yeah, in
that
a
can't.
theoretical perfect world, if you look at any one switch, you can do anything you want. But if you connect two switches at the same time, so, Henry's example, the two switches in the same row. Okay, now they're fused together. So both of those rows read that's being connected. It's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to mention Sixie. Kieran was actually mentioning the chat here, and he was actually rattling off all the kinds of stuff that was being answered. And his summary at the end was, in each case, I typed that before Henry said it from my point of view, honest. Because he was basically running down the exact same things Henry was saying simultaneously.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We've all beat our head against this wall. See the flat spot right here? You've got it. You've got it. You've got it.
And also, Julian Brown will be coming up in the news a little bit later on here. He mentions this is why my keyboard design has space for diodes in the matrix so that you can actually do that. So now there is one other section I want to play a little bit of here where he's talking about reading the joystick buttons. And he got this a little bit wrong, which I'm sure some of you guys can actually talk about too, but I'll let him kind of explain it first and then fast forward a little bit.
Directly. That could have been the end of this video, that could have been the end of the story, but there's one kind of weird thing that we do need to address. Well, there's a very clear line from these PB bits to the columns of the matrix that you want to test for. There's a bit of a complication in the response that we get back. Pin 4 of the left and the right joystick are also tied to these lines. Pin 4 is the button on the joystick, so what happens when the joystick buttons are pressed? Okay, so now I'm running the keyboard visualizer against my actual real CoCo 2 hardware as opposed to the XROR emulator. And notice what happens when I hit the G key. So when I hit the G key, this will turn into a 0, but this will only be a 0 when I happen to be polling that column. So only when this is 0 will this be 0. Boop, bloop, boop. So you'll see this kind of blinks 0, meaning I'm only going to know that this is down. I'm only going to get that 0 if this is the column I'm pulling. But check out what happens when I hit the right joystick button. It just stays 0. It doesn't matter what column I'm pulling. That thing is just always 0. And when I hit the left button, then that row is going to be 0. And if I hit them both.
So basically, he was explaining that basically it lights up the entire segment, not just a single entry for the joystick buttons, which is shown in that diagram as well. And I should mention, if you have a CoCo 3 or a Deluxe CoCo, add 2 more rows to those because there's 2 buttons. So there's 2 more that you can read. Now, he was trying to figure out how the heck am I going to figure out if I happen to be trying to check for a key if it was a joystick button instead. And for those of you who had Color Basic 1.0, you may remember when you hit the joystick buttons on there, it would just string out a string of characters from right to left in this.
My fourth ROM does that because I haven't put in a check yet.
Yeah. But there is a way you can do it because the joysticks is the only thing. If you only want the joystick button to come through and no keys, you would just program it so that it's not checking any columns. And then the button will still come through. That's the easiest way.
You kind of got to check for the columns, but what you do is when you poll, you check to see if you've got all the columns activated. So if in this case, like it goes to 0 if everything's if it goes to 0. So
no, you don't have to do that.
No.
Nick, you've done this a lot, so I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, you don't have to poll the column. The joystick button will light that row regardless. If you want to do a check for a joystick only, but isolate the keys, you have to set all the columns to, well, they have to be set actually. You do a 1 to deactivate, and then check that the joystick button is not being pressed. If it's not being pressed, it's just to isolate the 2 functions. Once you know the joystick button is not being pressed, then you can check the keys.
Yeah. So if you have a joystick only game that you're only worried about the buttons, you basically just program it so it's not checking any keys. You're not lighting up any of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a nice shortcut. And I didn't know that at the beginning either, Henry. I did the same assumption you did, where you had to kind of, or the same as CoCo Town did, actually, for that matter, where you have to like try to figure out, okay, if he's pressing 8 keys at once, that must mean a joystick button type thing. But actually, no, it's set up that if you tell it not to pull any of those, then it will still light up with a joystick button.
Yeah, that's a bit confusing with that visualizer, because I noticed when you press the button, all the columns would light up as well. That's not what really happens. You don't.
Well, he's not programming it that way, though, Nick. He's programming it as if keys.
That visualizer.
But it's a scan. So as he scans through, everyone comes true.
Yeah.
Right.
Because honestly, Microsoft and Color Basic 1.0 did the exact same mistake. They didn't know about the thing, and they fixed it in 1.1. So.
Yeah, and the other thing that he's doing there is he's not clearing the key until until the key polls as being released.
Yeah, and he's slowed down, of course, the polling here, so you can see it visualize a lot easier.
Right, and once it's set, it just stays set because it can't be released because it was never actually pushed. So
yeah,
there it is.
But anyway, that's a trick that really early tutorials in assembly language on the CoCo actually did not know that you can detect whether it's a joystick button versus the keys just by shutting off all key checks, as far as those bits with the ones you're setting. You don't. And if they're all off, then I'm hoping I'm getting that right.
Nothing should ever come through.
Might be all ones and all zeros. You have to set it all to basically, I'm not checking for any keys on any row at all.
Yeah, one blocks it.
Yeah. Thanks. I never remember that. I always have to look it up because my memory sucks. But anyway, so it's a really good tutorial on how to read the keyboard, and the visualizer is really nice because it's actually something you can run on a real CoCo and run in real time and actually see exactly how it works. So it even reports the bits on the top and on the left-hand side there.
That visualizer, is that something you wrote or?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, that's a pretty good little program.
Now, I haven't checked to see if he's actually got this because he has a site that you can get the downloads of all the source code for some of his little tests and programs. So they're not his game, obviously, yet, but some of his little test programs for this kind of stuff, like including his sound routines. He's been putting them up previously. I haven't had a chance to check this particular one, but I would assume that he's going to put that up there. So if anybody wants to grab this, look at the source code, which he includes, to figure out exactly what he's doing, and then also just run it on your machine to give it a try.
I assume that's a basic program he's written, or?
I think it might be an assembly. I'm not sure, though. Let me see if he actually lists it here.
It's moving too fast. It's really moving too fast for it to be a basic program.
Yeah. No, it's assembly.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, he got some comments. I think William Astle, the author of LW ASM and LW Tools, actually put a comment basically saying the same thing that Nick did. So I'm assuming he might do a little update video in the near future here to kind of report on that.
The CoCo Diags cartridge might have a keyboard test as well, doesn't it?
I believe it does, but that was written way back in 1982. So I don't know if that 1980 TOO. So I don't know if it had the fix for that either, because I know the original Color Basic definitely did not.
Right.
It would report you 8 key presses on whichever button. It was at through F on one, and then G through whatever on the other. Okay, next up, Boisy, who's been, of course, working with the Foenix F256 project, and especially their upcoming K2 version of it coming out in October, which has an option of actually making the 6809 the base one that comes on the board rather than 6502. Is starting a multi-part series, and he's got the first 2 parts up this week here, kind of explaining how the 6809, the Foenix 256K, and OS9 all work together. So this first one he did here is kind of getting through the boot environment. This talks about where it actually boots up level 1 from its own internal flash ROM and stuff. That was interesting. I just had a power fluctuation. Am I still on? You guys can still hear me?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, because the lights dimmed and everything, so I didn't know if I was going to lose connection there.
Talk really fast.
And my track record has not been good on that lately. So anyway, this one kind of goes through the boot environment, the fact that it boots OS9 level 1 itself from its own flash, and it kind of goes through, looking at the pseudo RAM drive. He's got a 40K RAM drive basically in the flash that kind of does the loading of this. And then it boots right in, then he does some stuff where you can dump memory and kind of see how the internals are working, et cetera, how the MMU works. pretty good technical stuff in there, and it's based on the CoCo. Like they actually used 8K MMU blocks to match CoCo just because it's, you know, the code's already done, tested, and optimized and everything else here, so you don't have to like reinvent the wheel. And then he did a follow-up to that one, OS9 Fundamentals. This is where he goes into like how modules work, how the headers of modules work, the different types of modules, whether it's device descriptors and stuff like that, or they're strictly data, or you can have, you know, program modules or subroutine modules, etc. So kind of go through some of the fundamentals of OS9 and its organizational structure. Here he goes through how the whole system works, like how the different managers relate to drivers, which relate to descriptors, etc. And all of those go through IOMAN, so you have one common layer to do any input-output on anything, basically. And it's a good explanation. I mean, this is specific to the Foenix F256, but because that is somewhat based on the CoCo 3, like the MMU block we were just talking about, it's well worth taking a look at if you're not familiar with the way the OS9s works on the CoCo 3. It's a nice little video tutorial with some examples and stuff to show you how basically it works. And basically it's the same, except for the hardware it's on, as the CoCo 3s is for OS9 level 2. Now, in this case here, he's still just covering level 1, which is what the CoCo 1 and 2 had and the Dragon had. He is planning on doing some level 2 stuff because the F256, of course, supports level 2 with MMU and, you know, expanded RAM and a bunch of other things. So he'll be going through that as well. But basically, the flash ROM and stuff on the Foenix, if you order the 6809 version, especially on the K2, will come with all this built in. So you can immediately boot. It takes about 1 second to boot OS9 level 1. And then it'll bring up a prompt menu. And do you want to boot level 2? And then level 1 will launch level 2 is basically how it's going to eventually work here. So, and they're currently working on graphics drivers and some other things as well. Really good. Actually, I quite enjoy these. Go ahead.
RBF, what does that stand for? Rigid
Random block file manager.
Random block. And what's SCF? Serial?
Sequential character file manager.
Sequential, okay.
Yeah, so SCF is like terminals, the screen, the keyboard, where you can't say, get the 7th key the guy hits because you don't know what that 7th key is going to be yet. You know, so it's basically stuff that has to be sequential, like a terminal. You're going to receive data in order. RBF is for like disk drives and hard drives and RAM drives and that kind of stuff, where basically I can tell it to read whatever sector I want. It doesn't have to be in order. So if you had, say, a 9-track cassette or a 9-track tape drive off of a PDP-11, it'd be kind of an SCF device because you have to read in order. You have to spin the tape, right?
Right.
So technically it would be SBF because that's a sequential block because you'd be reading like entire large chunks at a time, which OS9 did have back in the day, but the CoCo never did. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we would like SBF. But then, of course, Pipeman, and Pipe made a lot of jokes back in the day.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's pipes, which is a great thing for OS9 to have. Holy smokes.
Yeah. And the level 2 upgrade, and I think, is the name pipes actually in Nitrous 9 now? They weren't when I left the project before. And I honestly, I haven't really looked to see if the name pipe there. I know Chris Burke did the version for the level 2 version 3 upgrade. But there was name pipes, which is actually even more useful.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, there's other file managers too that aren't on this chart because they weren't that used all that often. SBF is one that was more used on gimmicks and smoke signal chieftains and the big iron 6809s. MSF was the MS-DOS file manager produced by Sardis Technologies and Dave Wiens, which actually did MS-DOS 6 disks and 512 byte sectors natively at full throttle. If you've ever ran some of the PC-DOS utilities, they work, but they're kind of slow because basically the OS9 is using 256 byte sectors. So if I want to write a sector, and writing it 256 bytes at a time, it has to flush the sector out each time because it doesn't know if you're going to switch to a different one, physical one. And that way you're basically doing read and writes twice on the same sector for a 512 byte MS-DOS. MSF does it all natively at 512 bytes, so it runs just as fast as normal. And you can do stuff like dir/A, and it does an MS-DOS directory, dir/D1. It does an OS9 directory that's actually all mixed together. It's awesome. Unfortunately, it takes a hell of a lot of system RAM.
No, stop.
I've just begun, Nick. Anyway, really good tutorials. He's got more coming. Like I said, he's going to be covering level 2 and a bunch of other things. He has mentioned in one of the videos about the guy that's actually working on the graphics drivers with him, which will actually be like VGA level graphics. So it'd be really interesting to see what they're doing in there. They've already done some things a little bit differently than the CoCo 3 did. So it'll be interesting to see where they take that. TRS80 Retro Programming did a video early in the week called Get Put and DIM for Dummies, which is kind of how to set up the DIM for Get Put graphics buffers, which does not make a lot of sense unless you kind of think it's basically just being used to allocate memory for a Get Put buffer. Because normally a dim is like, either strings or numbers. I mean, what does that have to do with the graphics buffer type thing? Unfortunately, he made the same mistake that just about everybody does, which is they followed the manual. The manual for calculating the size of your dims is so far wrong, it's just retarded. And they never corrected it, even when the CoCo 3 stuff. And it had been known for years that it was wrong and was wasting a ton of memory. And I mean, I did the same thing. I think it might have been 86, 87. I first started to, go on for some other people talking about it, that the calculation in the basic manuals is completely wrong. What they tell you to do is to dim the X dimension in pixels, the Y dimension in pixels. The problem is when you're dimming real numbers, which is the only variable that, Basic has, extended or Microsoft Basic has on the CoCo, is that each number takes 5 bytes. So this is 20 times 50 times 5 is how much memory you're actually locating or allocating. And the problem is that the pixels are only 1/4 or 1/8 of a byte each. So you're allocating, 10 or what would be 8? Well, it's 10 to 20 times more memory than you should be on a 4 or 2 color mode. And basically you'll run out of memory. Like if you try to get half a screen, you ran out of RAM on a 32K machine already. Whereas I've done a demo that I actually sent to him earlier that you can scroll an entire P mode 4 screen using get put if you dim it right, because then it only takes 6K for the entire screen. So he got some comments from Tim Linder. He got some comments from me pointing to Alan Huffman's blog, because Alan Huffman did a really good summary of how to actually really calculate it. So he did a follow-up video. And I wanted to show this to you. I'll just play a couple little clips from here because it kind of shows you kind of dramatically what the difference is. So this is his original one, which is doing a dim A 20 by 50 because he's doing a get put. And this is already shrunk a little bit here, but he's got the free memory here just from loading the program itself. So he hasn't allocated any space yet. So I'll let him actually run it to get the allocated space. You can see how much your memory pool dies. I will mention this is a P mode 1 screen. This is not a P mode 3 or 4. The screen is only taking 3K to begin with, the entire screen.
And just write that down again. We used, let's run this one more time. And we're going to print the memory.
He just got that little block and moved it. And there you can see we're using over 5,000 bytes already by following the manual's dim statement.
Yeah, that's almost a full graphics screen in P mode 4.
Yeah, and this is P mode 1, so this is like a screen in 2/3 to get that little rectangular block. So then when he uses the actual algorithm as it should have been explained properly in the manual, and I will admit right here, and this is the same problem we hit on the semi-graphics we'll be talking about when we do our seminar in CoCoTECH in a week in a bit, is that the fact that Microsoft made the graphics scalable so that every mode you specify X to 0 to 255, Y 0 to 191, even if the resolution is totally different. It might have proved useful if you're one of those people that wanted to change what mode your program was in without having to recalculate the numbers. Most people don't do that. Most people will pick a resolution and stick with it, and they pick it for a reason. They either want really high res or they want lower memory requirements or 2 or 4 color or whatever. It actually causes way more problems than it solves. And if they just had it so it was unscaled, then these calculations would be so much easier because you could just literally just figure out how many bits in a byte am I using per how many pixels in a byte times by the size, X, Y multiplied together. That's it. That's all you need to figure out. But at any rate, he then changes it to do a much smaller dim, which I think, yeah. So he dimmed it to 8 by 8. Now remember, every element in here is 5 bytes. And also all arrays in extended basic or color basic are base 0. So this is 0 to 8. So it's actually 9 elements times 9 elements times 5 bytes per element.
If I clear the memory and we go back to our base number of 22,537.
Now remember, we blew over 5K the first time around.
Dimension, and
still get puts fine.
The memory. Now we've used barely anything.
So from going from 5K plus to like 400 bytes, roughly, a little bit over. Huge memory saving.
You're stuttering, Curtis. No, you're breaking up. Now we can't hear you.
Now it's your mic. Your video's
Yeah.
fine, but your
mic might be
mic is
sounding-
gone, gone, gone.
That's weird because I can hear you guys fine.
That's all
And now
right.
you're,
Was
now you're perfect. Don't
Rats,
move.
We can hear him again.
No, I heard you fine. It wasn't my mic didn't get disconnected because if that does, I lose the mic and the earphones, and I heard you guys talking the whole time, so it's got to be an internet glitch.
It's your soldering job.
Oh, probably. Except I soldered the headphone part, and that's worked the whole way through. So
That's the magic of your soldering.
But anyway, yeah, if you guys are doing get put buffers, definitely take a look at Alan Huffman's blog, which I think he actually links to in the show notes here. Because it's orders of magnitude better if you follow the proper calculation and don't use the one in the manual. Like I said, you can actually buffer entire screens, and I demoed that actually on one of the earlier CoCoTECHs. I think I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but we've actually shown this before, where you can actually on a 32K machine you can buffer several screens and just put them. I mean, you probably want to use page flipping because it's a little more efficient and faster, but you definitely have the capability of doing that. So I would highly recommend that you check out Alan Huffman's blog, and also this video kind of explains it really well, as he kind of discovered himself, what kind of RAM savings you're getting here, because he did it's the exact same program minus the DIM, and you just went from having 17K free up to 22K free. Okay, next up, this is a special request from George Phillips, and if you guys have used the TRS80 GP emulator, he's the GP of George Phillips there. He's the author of that particular emulator, which has added CoCo 1 and 2 support in the last couple of years, as well as all the Model 1, 3, 4 stuff. Now, he actually directly messaged me here after we were on the Trash Talk last weekend, the 40th episode, to let me know that the TRS 8-bit 2024 competition is on. This actually was announced on May the 4th. Now, you may remember we were kind of busy on May the 4th, so a lot of us missed that this announcement got made because we were all at CoCoFEST. So basically what he's done here is he's taken a rather famous Model 1 and 3 game, which I know Nick is quite familiar with, called Defense Command.
Yeah.
And basically the challenge here is you have to write an AI, and he's actually modified the original Defense Command that you can link this AI using a basic program. You can use modern development tools. It even works from the CoCo, and you're basically going to have it react to the game, and you're going to program it to see how good of a score you can get, having your little AI program do the manipulation of where to move and fire and that kind of stuff. So if you go to 48k.ca/comp2024.html, and of course that'll be in the show notes as well, you can actually join the competition. If you have a Model 1 or 3 or 4 and you want to write it there, go ahead. It can be in BASIC. It can even be in machine language. He kind of explains, if you go through his notes and stuff here, of how to get it set up. And then there's basically a competition who can write the smartest AI to handle playing the game on its own. And basically, he does a bit of a show of it on the Trash Talk that was on while we were at CoCoFEST. Now, this will be a little bit long as he's kind of going through, but it's really hard for me to explain it properly. So I'll let George do it himself. So this will take a couple of minutes, and he'll kind of show you what the competition's all about.
TRS 8-bit competition of 2024, which has been underway for a while. Of course, no one's actually started on it yet, which is par for the course. No matter how much you encourage people to start early, and I really can't be I don't know, throwing that stone in my glass house. So, but I thought I'd give a little demo of what I've got here. Do a screen share of my desktop, my PC desktop on my Mac. Let's see, screen one. Yes. Okay, so I've got the web page up here.
Is this loud enough, or should I turn it up?
The competition itself.
It's fine.
And that has all the information you need to enter it. The basic gist of it is that there's a big 5 game called Defense Command. And so what I've done is hacked up the game a bit so that it can be controlled by another TRS80 program. So the objective of the contest is to write your own AI, as they call it, to control the game and, achieve the highest possible score. And so at the website, here's a little package you can download, which is the the special version of Defense Command and a few example scripts of how to use it. And what I've done is made it so that, you know, essentially it's going to, every frame, it's going to output the positions of all the enemies on the screen and the different types of enemies and the player ship and the shots, everything you need to know. And then your program reads that in and that writes back, you know, what it wants to do. Does it want to move left, right, fire a weapon, fire off a smart bomb? And that keeps going. And there's also some other information reported, like the score and the number of ships you have and stuff like that. A nice part of it is that you can actually write your own programs in BASIC to control it. So it's fairly easy just to fire up something simple to get this working. So I've got, this is all stuff that's in the zip file you can download from my website about the competition. But when you run it, it'll run two TRS80s GPs in tandem, one talking to the other. And so you can see the real game on the left where all the enemies are coming down here. And this is you sort of start where your precious canisters and the ship yourself is sent down. On the right is just a thing showing all the information available, i.e. you see the dots tracking where the canisters and the enemy are moving and your ship. Now it's got a super dumb AI, which is going to make the first mistake you can, which is to shoot the big spider guy, who's immediately going to send out a bunch of enemies and kill you dead, dead, dead. But the actual basic program here is just kind of, you know, like a 5-line thing, which is just saying, oh, here's the enemy positions, and I'm going to just set or reset a pixel depending on where they are. And it runs in a little loop. So once the game is over, it'll fire up another game and your, you know, AI program can deal with it. And I think based on the random AI here, it'll actually survive past the initial deployment stage and start moving and firing entirely randomly.
George, how is the data presented to the basic program? I'm curious.
Just as simple data statements, or just something you can do as input. So if I look at dots.txt, which may be hard to see here, but you'll see there's this line where it says input ntxy, and so that's basically it. It's fed in as if it were being typed from the keyboard, and then when you decide what to do, these lines down here are the various L prints, which you send it to the printer so that
So we print number
-2
-2 on a CoCo.
and gives the action it wants to do.
Okay.
So there's another example I have from the thing, and it's the same sort of thing here, except that there's nothing in the AI here, but I just print little ASCII characters showing the various types of aliens that are coming down. So you see the capital C's are the canisters, and the lowercase letters are the various different types of enemies, which mostly doesn't matter. I don't think there's anything really particularly different about them except their appearance. But if there is a difference, your program will be able to tell. So yeah, the same sort of thing there. And as well, what is it? You can do this on other things supported by TRS80 GP, including the color computer. So what did I call it?
This is kind of neat.
Oh, codots, right. So there's a little script that runs same sort of thing, but here we've got the original game on the right, so you can see what's happening, and then just another simple program on this time on the color computer, which is using its, you know, ability to do colors so that it's showing the good guys in blue and the bad guys in red. You can, if you squint your eyes carefully, you can kind of see, aha, you know, here's the enemy ships and here's your canisters at the bottom, and you getting transferred back up. And I think I may have made it so that your shots are yellow or something like that, or maybe I didn't get that fancy. Oh yeah, you can actually see it. You sort of just barely probably is a little yellow shot going up as the thing shoots. Again, it's random AI makes the mistake of shooting the guy and bringing instant death to itself.
So anyway, I thought that's a really cool concept, like taking an existing arcade game classic on the Model 1 and 3, hacking it so that basically it'll send updates of what every position of everything in there, the canisters, the aliens, shots, etc. And then you write a little basic program that just uses input. It reads those coordinates in and then acts on it and then sends a response of what you want to do with the player's ship. And the fact you got it running between the CoCo and the Model 1 and 3 too is kind of cool as well. So I was wondering, for any of you guys that like doing, you know, the types of programming hacks like this time and stuff, how many of you would be interested in actually entering this contest? I think it'd be kind of cool to get some of the CoCo people involved and see if they can write an AI that just stomps the crap out of this game.
I'm not an AI author.
Resounding success.
Or do you think this is a bit too exotic to get too many people involved with? I guess
not so much that. It's like I'm looking at the, you know, I'm looking at what he's doing with this as far as building the AI. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't have the age of the universe to get this thing to like actually do things right.
Well, the thing is, you can definitely overclock the living crap out of it, so it's not running at real basic speed, obviously. But
well, no, leave that where it goes and overclock your AI. But still, it's a lot of thinking to do, and we've all got 27 projects going. So,
yeah, my excuse is it doesn't run to OS 9, so of course I wouldn't do it. But
oh yeah, if it was done, you'd be right on it, right?
Well, Wayne Campbell and me might join up to do a Basic 9 one, but
cool. Well, there you go.
But yeah, I've got too many projects too. But it's an interesting concept. I'm hoping that we get some entries from the CoCo people. I mean, the TRS80 crowd is more the diehard, you know, software engineers and hardware engineers type thing. And we have more some of the casual users that actually might be more interested in actually participating in something like this. I was hoping like Ken would be on there to ask him about it because he does some basic programming, etc.
Because it looks like great fun. And just, you know.
And like looking at the basic program that he used there for the Model 1 and 3 version, that it doesn't take a lot of code. I mean, that was literally like, what, 20 lines for a simple one. Obviously, that's a pretty dumb AI, but yeah, I'm hoping like the fact that he sent it to me to specifically present, because everybody missed it because of the fact that the original announcement was the exact same weekend as CoCoFEST. But I would like to see if some CoCo people at least can maybe take a stab at it. And basically, you just need to know some basic programming. And then the TRS80 GP emulator that he has actually emulates both machines. And if you run his little scripts that he includes in the zip, it'll launch them with the appropriate parameters, et cetera. And you can actually just have it run and let it go. So you don't have to do any really heavy lifting of trying to figure out how to get two emulated machines to talk to each other and all that kind of stuff. He does that for you. So hopefully some people will be interested in giving that a shot. If anybody does, either in the chat or live on the panel is thinking about doing it, maybe report back next week if you've had a chance and just see what you come up with, if you've come up with anything, and maybe see how your little AI works for a first try. Next up, Pierre Sarrazin has released CMOC, the C-like compiler for the CoCo, version 0.1.87. This update adds experimental GCC 6809 calling convention, where it can pass parameters via the B and X registers to a function. I'm not familiar with GCC, but I've heard some horror stories about it not being a good one to use for the CoCo for some reason. I don't know, you guys might have a bit more experience with that than me.
It works fine. It just has some limitations.
Like what? Out of curiosity.
Well, it won't generate proper relocatable code, so that makes it impossible to use for OS 9.
Okay, it's useless. That's all I need to hear. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep, there we go.
It's over.
No, it generates code. It actually, I think what Henry Strickland said is it does some kind of cool optimizations that might not be real obvious otherwise. So it does do a few things, but it's what we have patch files to go on top of GCC 4.6.4. So it's kind of a hack on a hack with a hack. And so, and you can paint yourself in a corner sometimes too. But I mean, it's like the Galaxy server and the Alcaran use the GCC patch for generating the CoCo 3 code.
Okay.
So, it works, compiles, but it's got problems.
So what C compiler does it normally use then if it's not using a GCC? Because I'm assuming it basically creates the C code and passes it through some already made compiler, or is it totally self-contained?
No, it generates LWASM code.
Oh, okay. So he actually compiles a C internally to assembly output.
To assembly, and then pumps it through LWASM to get your output. Yeah.
Okay. He also mentioned that this is a plus for me. OS9 interrupt function now allowed to receive a parameter, so the signal handler can receive the signal number in the B register, which is absolutely critical if you're writing a signal handler or using signals between processes at all. Several new command line options specify that char is unsigned by default. You can set the stack pointer address directly, like you want the S to be at 2000 for this particular program. You can actually tell that on the command line. And it will also allow you to pass fragments to LWASM, which is really good for like debugging and all kinds of things. Also, as well, of course, the standard several bug fixes, improvements, and optimizations. And you can get that from Pierre's site, which will be in the show notes, or you can read it on our screen. And he updates this fairly regularly, so it's actually a nice system that gets constantly improved upon. One that I don't have a screenshot for, but Gary Becker uploaded a firmware update for the Game X for those of us lucky enough to have one, which fixes a bug for the cartridge ROM addressing. And the two versions, because he's got one that's for dynamic RAM-based Gimme X's. Like if you have your RAM upgrade from the old style RAM stuff, it'll run at the 1.78 megahertz. And then if you have static RAM upgrades, like the later ones, like the Boomerang E2 and the Triad Plus, and the piano-shaped one that Ed himself made, then it'll actually be the 2.86 megahertz version because it'll run it at much faster speeds. Versions for both of those are actually available in the... well, Mark, what do you call the Gimme channel? It's got a bazillion options on it. Gimme XYZ
Infinity. Yeah, you got it right.
So basically, if you have a Gimme X and you want to get that latest firmware with that bug fix, it's available there. And that obviously proves that, Gary Becker's been continuously working on it, even though the Gimme X has become pretty well non-existent, unless you're Ron Delvaux and you get a lucky, mail from Ed Snyder and suddenly receive one. Bob, do you still have yours? Oh, you're muted.
I sold mine at the CoCoFEST to Jerry Steen. Gary.
So you're coming in really faint, what?
Yeah. Get that microphone figured out one of these days.
So what did you say?
I sold it at the CoCoFEST to
Brian
Steen.
Terry Steen.
Terry Steen. Okay.
Terry Steen, yeah.
Of Dragon.
I'm surprised you didn't hold on to that one.
Well, I'm just in the hope of future things coming out soon. I wanted to share it with somebody who's been waiting a lot longer than I have.
Another too many projects guy.
Yeah.
Understand.
Well, we got the Gimme X, of course, which Ed did sneak one out to Ron, so maybe he's actually starting development on it again as far as making the hardware, because Gary's been working on the software continuously.
Yeah.
And then of course AC's 8-bit's own Alan, he's been working on the Gimme Z, which is going to basically duplicate the function of the Gimme X. He's got it to the point where the 512K and stuff does work, and basically you can replace a stock Gimme with the Gimme X. It doesn't have any extra features yet, as far as I know, but it basically is possible to replace a Gimme. And of course, now he's working on all the extra features that the Gimme X had, and hopefully keep it software compatible, because we really don't need two different Gimme replacements that aren't compatible with each other.
No,
I'll just fragment it to nothing. Next up, Jeffrey Alderson. We've covered some of his YouTube shorts before, but he's actually posted a link to his repository where he's redone VCC that will be able to compile under Visual Studio 2022 to run on the ARM64 versions of Windows, not just Intel CPUs. And the previous version of the code, like the main repository, is based on an older version of Visual Studio, which will not allow ARM64 compilation. So if you go download it and give it some testing on there, you should be able to run it on like a Windows 11 with an ARM64 CPU instead of having required an Intel one. So I haven't heard too many people besides Jeffrey himself talk about how well it runs and stuff. But if anybody here falls into that camp or that category, I'd love to hear your feedback on that. I don't know if anybody on the panel has immediately, but if you guys have that hardware, I wouldn't mind hearing back maybe the next couple of weeks to see how it runs. Anybody in the panel have it, just out of curiosity? Nope. Okay. Okay, UG Basic. The author of UG Basic, of course, or Micro Game Basic is what it stands for. Spotless Mind, 1975. Now, I do remember he just did an interview. Was it on Trash Talk or was it on Randy Kindig's Floppy Days? No, it was actually on Randy Kindig and I can't remember the guy's name, but they do a programming podcast, and they actually interviewed the authors from Italy. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's released an update again, and he does this almost weekly at this point. And this is fresh after he just released that multi-platform Sokoban Plus that he did using his microgames compiler. Now he's released an update to the compiler itself. Version 1.16.2 fixes bugs in the Foenix loops if they're working backwards, like a negative step. The step was not working properly on Dragons and CoCos in particular, so that's been fixed as well. He fixed procedure on proc if the procedure name is a reserved word from the basic itself. And for those that don't know, this is a cross compiler that you run on modern machines, including Windows 32 and 64-bit, Linux 32 and 64-bit, and then we'll compile it down to a multitude of platforms, including the CoCos and Dragons. He's even got CoCo 3 specific stuff in here now too. He's released, I think, 4 or 5 games now. He had like a Connect 4 style game that he did way back, and he's done the Sokoban one, and he did a few others. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but it seems to be doing pretty good. I know Erico Montero in our Discord has actually been chatting with him and actually testing out stuff from a fair bit. And it basically compiles to assembly language, so it actually does some pretty good performance from what I've seen. Have any of you guys downloaded any of his games like that SOC 64 that we mentioned last week and given them a shot yet? I didn't get a chance to because I was busy at work. I was planning on it, but because so far from what I've seen, if you go to his itch.io page, he's got multiple games there for the multiple platforms, including the CoCo and the Dragons, and they're free. I mean, you can donate money if you wish, but you don't have to pay something. So it'd be kind of interesting to hear how people are getting along with that. I think Alan Murphy's been fiddling with it too. Unfortunately, he's not here today either. Anyway, if you do use it, go get the update. It fixes some bugs, including some specific to the Dragon and the CoCo. Next up after that, we have Tech Guy Life on YouTube. And he's doing some retrobutting. Now, we've seen a fair number of retrobutting things using CoCos before, but this is a bit different. He decided to retrobite the chiclet keyboard from the CoCo 1, which I've not seen anybody do before. And of course, some of the keys are different colors, so I was really curious, how well is this going to work?
This is of interest to me.
So we'll show a little bit of the beginning where he shows the condition of his keyboard currently.
TRS80 keyboard, which I will put a before picture of right here. It doesn't look great. Doesn't look great at all. And I want to make it look better. So
now here you can kind of see the yellowing on the gray keys, the white keys, even the brake keys got a little bit of a yellowish tinge to it. And I know my CoCo 1 keyboard, I think the one I gave Rick, I think had start of this happening already. That was my later F board version. My D focus has been long gone. And I was thinking, like, how well is this going to work? Like on the white keys, like the arrows, the shift, the enter, the clear, I figured it probably wouldn't work too bad. But what is it going to do with keys that's like a gray plastic to begin with or a red plastic to begin with? And I haven't seen anybody else really try this before, so I'm really curious as to what had happened.
No, this is the keyboard with the extra posts.
Yeah, actually the one that I thought was only, on the prototype.
Weird when it's really, really, really old. So, yeah, cool.
And he's in Canada, I believe, too, because he was mentioning temperatures only in Celsius. So, and he's obviously got English without much of an accent. So I'm guessing he's Canadian somewhere. I'll play a little clip from the middle here when he's in the middle of retrobutting. He's got it soaking in the hair product that everybody uses for retrobutting.
Hydrogen hour in the sun.
He's using goop. He's not. He's using the goop, not the liquid, right?
Yeah, the hair gel.
This is about almost 2 hours in, and you can see that the white keys are getting white again, and the gray keys are gray, but there's still a little hint of yellowish there. You can kind of tell.
Right.
If you look through the plastic. I don't know if that comes out on camera, but you can still see that there's a difference between the bottom gray and the top gray. But it's definitely 100 times better than it was. current temperature outside is about, I think it's like 22, 23 degrees Celsius.
Oh, that's not bad.
And yeah,
Pretty
the
cool.
sun's just ablazing today. It's nice and pretty outside.
So you should watch the video because he kind of goes into a bit more details on. But I do want to. This is kind of a spoiler, but I think it's worthwhile showing like what the difference was because it's much better than I was expecting.
To the bottom of the frame, and then I will put in a picture of what it used to look like up here, and just wow.
Yeah, man.
Like that's a vast improvement. I was quite surprised. And that seeing the bottom one actually reminded me of when I first got my CoCo one in 1981. That's what it looked like. It was, and all the ones I have now, of course, that have chiclets, that they look like the top one. So, but for anybody here who's done retrobreading before, or so at least familiar with the process, is it as much a surprise to you guys as it was to me that he got this much of improvement on colored keys?
Yeah.
Not from what I've seen actually, because I don't know exactly the chemistry of the process, but I've seen this done with a couple of other different colored plastics, and if it's got that bromine, whatever the heck that
fire retardant thing,
that turns everything brown, then the peroxide process works well for if it's got color or if it's not got color. The trick is that you can't overbake it, because if you overbake it, you start bleaching the original color out of it. Another video that I watched used not the sunlight process, but he experimented with the sunlight process using an external UV source that's not sunlight, and he also experimented with just using controlled temperature with a sous vide. And he found out that the most repeatable results, believe it or not, came from using the sous vide. So it was more heat adding energy to the bleaching process.
Cool.
Okay.
And we should mention here, before you retroblight anything, flip the keys over, make sure they're double shot and the black plastic is actually a separate black key on the inside. Because some keys weren't that, and the letters will retrobright right off.
Yep. Bye.
So anyway, for any of those who like restoring computers, they look, pretty well brand new, and you have some of the old chiclet keyboards from the CoCo 1 era, it looks like retrobreading actually might really, really help. I mean, obviously you had to clean some, you can see some of the dirt on the original picture too. That would just be simply wiping it with Q-tip and rubbing alcohol or water or whatever. But the key color difference is pretty striking. Like even the brake key looks a bit more vibrant and red. The white really stands out because of the top one, it's almost tough to tell some of the white from the gray keys. It's much more plain after the retrobreading process. So I was impressed.
The chiclet keyboard was a pretty good keyboard. I mean, it got a lot of criticism, but I thought it was a pretty good keyboard, except for the fact that over time, the keys get stuck or they scrape against the
yeah, especially
side.
to get little particulates stuck in there, like, breadcrumbs and stuff.
It starts to be bad, but if there was a way to get around that, then the chiclet was a pretty good keyboard.
Well, I think the fact you look at modern laptops, they're pretty well all chiclet keyboards now. So
Well,
obviously
the
they were onto
chiclets-
something, right?
Yeah, and don't forget the chiclet keyboard allows you to overlay it, put an overlay on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So you
That was
can
something
lay-
that went away after the CoCo 2 came out, or the 64K CoCo 1,
That's
because your
right,
art
and that-
gallery overlays and your basic, utilities that give you single or two key presses for an entire command in BASIC and all that kind of stuff. You couldn't do it
being
anymore.
able to just label every key just by putting a template was a really good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, the keyboard was fine when you first bought it, but then over time the keys
would stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for a touch typist, because I had already been learning electric typewriter typing at that point, it wasn't great. Now, if you've ever used like an Atari 400 keyboard, it's leaps and bounds. So
yeah.
We definitely were not the worst keyboard on the market on the early popular 8-bits. We were probably in the middle somewhere. The keys had travel. And like you said, at the beginning, they didn't tend to stick down, but after a while, they did.
Brand new,
tend to
they
stick
were
down.
good.
Well, I mean, that was something about typing skill, because if you always hit them square, they were fine. But you start beating on the edges too much, and that little metal leaf spring inside kind of dug into the plastic, and you could kill it easily.
Yeah.
And that keyboard taught me to go straight down on the keys.
They're right in the middle, straight down. Yeah.
Yep.
Aim.
The space bar is more forgiving, but
I used this keyboard from 81 until I got my CoCo 3 because I never did get a CoCo 2 and I didn't buy any of the third-party replacement keyboard. So I actually ran my chiclet up until October of 86. And I did learn how to clean it and take those, bazillion little tiny screws that you could lose in a heartbeat apart and cleaned it multiple times. But it served me well. I mean, I went through the tail end of high school, wrote my reports on it, even did some of my university first year stuff on it. So
if you sprayed every key, all the sides of the keys in particular, with lithium spray, that fixed it for a little while.
Cool.
I like some of the comments here in the chat about the chiclet keyboard. Peter Willow says, you still can't make me love the chiclet. Julian Brown says, stop defending those old chiclet keyboards. The new keyboards are very, very different, but still have a lot of the same problems. I think the biggest problem, I think, for touch typists is that it had almost no travel compared to a quote unquote real keyboard. And I was more used to the,
and
a
no
bit more
feel,
play.
A key should sort of break over as it goes through, so you know how hard you're typing, and these things were just beating on it.
Yeah, and that's where the Ed Snyder keyboard has that really nice, satisfying click. It's like the old classic IBM 5150 keyboard or something.
Type M. Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, this one, at least you had feedback. You hit a key, you felt it go down, and it would come back up most of the time until it got too much crap at it.
Right. Most of the time.
The membrane keyboards like this Dymec Sinclair, ZX80, ZX81, the Atari 400s, I hated those because you couldn't tell anything was going on.
Push.
Yeah, Mark's holding one of those aberrations up right now. So
Yep.
Not that you guys can see it on the stream, but yeah.
Oh yeah. That's absolutely terrifying. It's worse
And every one of those keys has 5 labels, so good luck. With that.
All the modifiers.
Yep. Once you get past a certain age, you can't even read the keyboard. And go ahead, Henry.
Bucky Bits. Hey, I learned computer on that thing.
Hey, it was a computer at least.
If I had started on that, I probably wouldn't have gotten into computers because I would have been so frustrated.
I started on a teletype. The ZX81 was so much better than the teletype. It was faster. It was cleaner. You didn't need paper. You didn't get kicked off a playing track.
It makes a good Frisbee.
And yeah, doorstop, whatever you need. It was a nice wedge shape, so it fit most doors.
Yeah, Peter Will said that the Spectrum was awful, so we could have had it worse. Yeah. I remember Consumer Reports doing a review between the Atari 400, the 800, the CoCo, the Coleco Atom, and I think the VIC-20 or the C64, and they were comparing, software availability and a bunch of other things. The CoCo actually did quite well in that review. But the keyboard is one where it got below average. Not the worst. That was reserved for the Atari 400, but pretty low.
Even the MC10 one, really, technically, of all those little computers, had the best keyboard.
Yeah, because it didn't have much, but it did have some travel. You could actually kind of tell you hit the key.
Yeah.
Whereas typing on a ZX81 or a ZX80 is the equivalent of typing on glass on your phone.
Yeah, just bang
you have
on your
no
desktop.
feedback at all. You have no idea if you hit the right key or not. And you look down and no, I didn't. My thumb was 0.2 millimeters to the right, and I hit the next key I didn't want to hit.
And
I'll tell you like this. Growing up in the state of West Virginia, where like the newest technology we had as far as being able to learn to type was a mechanical typewriter when I was in elementary school, a mechanical typewriter with like the blanked out keys, and having that kind of travel and wanting to learn how to touch type, but looking at that and going, are you kidding me? And feeling it and going, are you kidding me? Yeah, the CoCo 1's chiclet keyboard was a whole lot better than that.
Yep. Yeah, I had a manual typewriter at first too, and you had to press the thing like a full inch down, and you had to hit it hard enough so it hit the ribbon enough to actually put something on the paper.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of like the teletype that I had. It's an ASR 33. Take some key force. I mean, we're talking way past the normal. Where you get your fingers hurt after banging those keys down for a while. It actually takes physical force to make it work. It was a mechanical device. So as it got sticky, some of the keys were stickier than other keys. So typing was quite the challenge. You should go there. You should try that. If you ever see a type, go type something.
We have a comment from 8-Bits in the basement. And he says the Spectrum had travel, and he's right. If you talk about the ZX Spectrum, which is their color 48K or 32K machine later on, that actually had chiclet keys similar to the CoCo. Honestly, I think they're smaller. They're rubber, but they actually had movement. Whereas the ZX80 and 81 was just a flat membrane, pressure based, basically.
Yeah.
It's like if any of you've ever worked at McDonald's and ran one of their old tills, that's what it felt like typing on one of those, the Atari 400 or the 8081 ZX.
Oh yeah, the spray it off with Windex and you're good to go.
Yeah, the one where you have to press hard right in the center to get it to register anything at all.
But then the Sinclair one, the Spectrum one, they called it dead flesh. It didn't really move. It was just squishy. It was kind of weird. I never really got the hang of it.
It's like a koala touchpad for a keyboard.
Kinda, yeah. It was just kind of squishy. You couldn't really tell what you were doing.
I think 8 Bits of the Basement newest comment is actually the best description I've seen. It's like reading Braille through garden gloves. That's the best description ever. Anyway, enough about keyboards. Oh,
the tab just crashed.
That might have been when that power cut came through. So Julian's actually in the chat right now, so he can answer any further questions on it. But basically, he put out a public request, and I'll just read what his original message to me was before he posted it on Facebook here on the Dragon group. I think it's also on the Discord now too, and possibly on the World of Dragon archive. But he's putting out a call of assistance for working on his latest Dragon boards. To quote, basically, I need volunteers for checking the design, build, and operation. Not looking to raise an army, but I really need another pair of eyes to prevent avoidable errors and just make the board designs better and easier to build. At this stage, everything is in KiCad and stored on GitHub, so there are no costs other than time. But once the boards are fabricated, there is the cost of parts and fabrication. I can pay for the boards and shipping, but not parts, so serious interest only. Testing of the boards naturally follows assembly. But hopefully the assembled boards can be shared out, shipping costs allowing. I need to thrash out the practicalities of this with anyone that expresses interest. And you can reach him on the Dragon group on Facebook. And through the CoCo Discord, his handle there is JimBro100. And he's got a kind of a picture of one of his designs here. This one's got the multi-pack and stuff functionality that we've shown before removed just to make sure that the core functionality is working first rather than really make it complicated. And he's got some other notes here on the Facebook post as well. But if you're interested in helping him on actually testing this out and looking at the design, you probably have to be a hardware guy to do this. I think I'm way underqualified to even look at this. But definitely give him a contact either in the Dragon group on Facebook or on the Discord. And he's waving at us right now too from the chat. But anyway, you hardware guys, I think, might be able to help him with some of this, because this is the one where he's actually planning on adding, the ATEX form factor one, I think, was adding in, cartridge slots that are PC style, also a 4-pack multi-pack, and he's got, the square chips that take a heck of a lot less room. Like I think that 609 that Brian Weasler was showing earlier, that kind of thing. And of course, he's adding a whole bunch of extra stuff like extra RAM support and all kinds of things added on as well. So it's going to be like a Dragon Super Plus or something. Next up, a YouTube channel called Migs Yesterchips. And this is a German channel, so I've got the translation turned on, but he actually received the Dragon, and it's just kind of learning his way around it type thing. He really likes the keyboard, etc. You notice that the label's missing. He's actually ordered some upgrades, etc. I think he replaced the power supply, for example, on it. Probably using one of John Whitworth's, I'm guessing. But he's planning on doing some follow-ups on here, quite like the machine. Now, one thing he had mentioned during this video is that he'd not seen much of the Dragon back in the day in Germany. Ironically enough, as we talked last week, there's a German user that actually has all but the first issue of the German Dragon Users Magazine for the Dragon Group in Germany. And he scanned all of those, and those are on the World of Dragon website in their forums. And you can actually download. We showed it last week. I showed a couple of issues as a sample. I think there's 21 total, and he had 20 of them scanned. So hopefully one of the people there that was involved with the scanning of the actual Dragon German magazine, or not magazine, but newsletter, can actually forward maybe a comment to this guy and show him how to get to them, because then he actually will be able to read stuff in his native language to get more information on the Dragon, rather than trying to have to, convert everything over by hand or through Google Translate, etc. So anyway, it's a pretty interesting video, and it goes through the Dragon, replaces the power supply, which actually I just saw on the screen here. That's actually the Goffard or Goffard PSU, so it's not John's. And he also, compares it with the CoCo one, of course, because on the same reference design. Goes through some of the parts on the inside. I'm just kind of showing those there. I won't play that here because it's all in German, so the audio listeners will only hear German and they won't see the closed captioning. So, but you can definitely turn closed captioning on one, tell it to auto translate German to English, and then you can kind of follow along. And then the last one is from a YouTube channel called Retro Crazy, which sounds like an apt description of all of us, I think. But he released a video here, kind of combines two things. He assembles a Dragon 32 joystick adapter, and then he plays 8-bits in the basement. It was also in the chat earlier. I don't know if he still is, but his recently released game, Bob and the Alien Fireflies. Now, the video was recorded over a couple of weeks, so the first version of Bob and the Alien Fireflies, you may even remember this on CoCoNation, because he's saying it should work on the Dragon, but he hadn't tested it yet. And there was some issues with the joystick reads, etc. And plus the fact that he didn't have a proper joystick. So he built the actual converter. You can see on the top left of the still shot, we're looking at joystick adapter for the Dragon 32. And it's convert analog or digital joysticks to run on as analog on the Dragon. But also by the end of the video, he plays Bob and the Alien Fireflies using his new joystick converter here with an updated version that actually did fix it so it actually ran properly. So it's actually kind of a twofer. It's a bit of a hardware project and then also kind of a review of the game before it actually got released. And then once the final Dragon version was released too. So he's testing software on one of these little cassette things, which I think, Bob Emery, you've got versions, and maybe not this exact one, but you've got some versions of these cassette readers, right? You're muted. Make sure your mic's down by your mouth too.
Yeah, I do have an SVI-CAS.
Oh, so you have the exact same model? Okay.
It's white like that, but it doesn't say SVI-CAS on it like that does.
Okay.
There's no labeling on mine at all.
Now I'm trying to remember, is that a cross-platform or is that a Dragon specific?
No, that's
device?
Cross-platform. SVI is for Spectra Video, but it works with Commodores, TI, Ataris, a whole bunch of systems.
Okay. That's how he loads it, and then he basically does a little, sped up video of him putting the adapter together. Did some tests on it to make sure before he starts plugging stuff in, it's not going to blow up. And then he has this little joystick that he hooks up. I'll just play a little bit of that.
Connected to a Competition Pro joystick, which is definitely a digital device. And we've got the Dragon on, and I've got my SVI-CAS. Now, I did test beta version 1. I found a small issue. He's been developing this over months and months on emulator on the CoCo, but it should also work in the Dragon 32. I found one issue which is specific to hardware. He's redone the keyboard routine, and this is version 2. So now I should be able to get everything set up, and this is a binary file, so I need to do cload M, and let's load this up.
Loading is sped up, I should mention.
Now it's loaded, I can type exec to run the machine code. Bob and the Alien Fireflies. So you've got story, instructions, special thanks, and 1 or 2 player game. And you can see this has been created by 8-bits in the basement. So we're going to have a look at a 1-player game, should be in the left port. So let's go, and it's running, and I can control Bob, who has got to avoid these I forgot the screen wraps up and down. So Bob has to avoid those beams and collect the fireflies, and I failed miserably. Oh, one right next to me. So let's try again.
That is a pretty creaky sounding joystick, though.
It is, yeah.
And unfortunately, in this instance, I took too long and the Firefly exploded. However, it does confirm that this works. Superb. So, a couple of big thanks again. Thank you to...
And I'll let you watch the rest of the video where it kind of builds the little hardware project for the adapter. And he kind of hints that he'll be doing some more stuff with the Dragon in the future too, which I look forward to seeing. And that's it for the news this week.
Woohoo!
Who's left?
It's a wrap.
Time to wake up.
Wake up, Mark B.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
So a reminder that we've now booked the next episode of CoCoTECH, which MarkO should be hosting, and Nick and I will be doing a dual presentation, me doing most of the first half, Nick doing most of the second half, and then we'll be doing some general Q&As afterwards. There'll be some stuff to download that goes along with it, including a disk image with some test programs and base code that you could use to make your own SemiGraphics 12 and 24 games in BASIC, as well as a little demo of a ship flying around that you can control the joystick.
Nice. I can't wait to be there so I can heckle both of you.
That's
No
it.
Dr.
I'm
Pepper
out.
for you.
David's going to be there. I'm out.
Just remember, Nick and Curtis, if it wasn't for bad news, there'd be no news at all. So
That's a rather good blues song. I should jam that one next year. So anyway, that's on Monday. Next, not the Monday coming up, but the Monday after that.
9 days.
Monday after Monday? Okay.
Which is the math's hard, 22nd?
Yeah.
At 7 p.m. Eastern, is that what we said?
Yep.
So Nick, that would be just under 4 hours from now, whatever time that will be for you. Probably mid-morning or something?
That's about into morning. It'll be about around 11 o'clock.
Okay, that's work then. Tuesday for you, yeah.
Tuesday, yeah.
Our Monday, your Tuesday.
Not this coming Tuesday. The next
Nope, the one after that.
The
next one.
Tuesday after Tuesday. Yes.
Where Nick will be premiering a probably not completed, but
Damn awesome.
a good game port of a game we've not seen in the CoCo before, but being done in BASIC using SemiGraphics 12. There's a teaser for you. Mine's just useless, joystick moving a ship around demos of the ship I showed at the beginning of the show. Boring.
Okay.
Should at least do a platformer, Curtis.
Well, I should get back to Liberation. I got to do some utility writing first because there's a couple things I need to work for. I get further into that game, but you guys have seen the demos of that a couple years ago. But then I had to get the next version of EOU out and work on CoCoTECH episodes. I'm still playing and doing BASIC 9 and OS9 assembly. CoCoTECH.
Right. Now you need a game engine to go under your game, so you're going to write that.
Well, that part's unfortunately, the game's going to need multiple game engines depending what level you're on. But the game engine for the first 3 levels is actually done, and the map for the first level is completed. The actual code of actually making it into a game isn't fully there yet. But I need some special routine that I need to write, which I've got kind of planned out on paper already for doing digitized sound effects a bit more rapidly than forking the play command. So, and signal driven.
Sounds like a job for Simon to get with you.
No, because Simon doesn't like using OS9 from what I gather.
Right. Too many restrictions, all the pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. We're ready for the outro?
Yeah, unless somebody else got anything else. Is there anything else we should be reminding people of coming up besides the return of CoCoTECH?
Try not to melt.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, I got a couple of excessive heat warnings myself.
Yeah, we had ours on Thursday.
Right. And Alan's in a motel room somewhere because he got hit by a damn hurricane. So
yeah, lost all his
there's
power.
that.
We wish Sloopy well in the hospital. He's hoping to be out Sunday, I think. Earliest, I think, is that he might be out.
Or Monday.
Well, good, because I need to heckle on him too.
Can't really do that in the hospital, right? He's got to get out.
I'd love to see if some of you guys that are kind of curious on some of the stuff we've been talking about the last few weeks here, like the TRS80 GP linking the two emulators and writing an AI. I'd love to see somebody tackle that over the next few weeks. I'd love to see some feedback on some of the games that the Micro Games Basic has made, or even demoing them. I know Alan had mentioned that he was thinking of doing that. Of course, due to circumstance, he can't be on the show to even try that. He's not even at home, like he's in a hotel, as you mentioned, from the hurricane. But I'd like to see some of that stuff because I can't try everything out myself to properly give it a proper review. And I would love to some of the people in the community can maybe join on the show, even if they're not regulars, just pop on and kind of give a little demo, show us how some of the stuff works. Like, I have no idea how fast games written in Micro Games Basic are. I know it's compiled, so it should be much faster than Basic. Does it compare with Basic 9, or is it much better than that? Is it like more like a CMOC style program? Is it getting close to assembly because it's written with modern utilities and tools that probably can optimize a lot better than you do in a CoCo natively? I don't know. I have no clue.
You know what would be nice, Curtis, is mix your basic game with that math coprocessor cart.
It wouldn't really help with that though. There's nothing math intensive in that game.
Oh, you got to do signs.
Now, if you
and
tried to
curves
port
and
like
things,
what's that 3D game everybody raves about on the Spectrum and BBC Micro and stuff?
Elite.
Elite, yeah. Like it might help with something like that,
That looks
depending on
cool.
what the library has. I can't remember off the top of my head.
or
What
things
about
with
Nick's one 3D game? Would that help there?
That has a sign lookup table, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah, he is a lookup table.
Right.
Oh,
So things
okay.
with trajectories, you could write a better game, but existing games were probably
Yeah.
written for the lookup table. you know.
Or games that you wouldn't fit, say, on a CoCo 1 with 64K or 32K because you have to, have tables to have it run at speed.
If you could
actually calibrate.
if you could patch the basic ROMs so that it uses
Yeah, or I could make a special version of Basic 9 that calls the hardware too, or something like that.
yeah, it just means that most basic programs will then get a speed up because basic does everything with floating point.
Right,
What about
right.
Rescue
and
on
it's-
Fractalus?
Use it
Which
to
it
write a
doesn't need
Vectrex
to.
emulator.
Would
Well,
Rescue
and-
on Fractalus get any benefit from that hardware cart?
Anything
Um,
with trig, I think. And there's
The
trig in
fractal
there.
part of it might. I can't remember if that's lookup tables or not. Because I don't really understand at the machine language level what exactly it's doing there. I do know how the drawing and stuff work. Now, it's 3 different major planes as to how many pixels it's really going to draw compared to, an actual pixel. I do remember when I buggered up the code in there, it actually was drawing raw triangles instead of smoothing it out. So that routine's in there too.
Cool.
Yeah, that one actually I think might be doing some real calculations. That one might get some speed up, or something like Worlds of Flight or P51 or something that's doing all these vector transforms and stuff. Might be able to run pretty good with it too. By the way, Chris Lucky, alias Sloopy, is mentioning in the chat there that he's supposed to be released tomorrow.
His alter ego
Nice.
is released tomorrow.
Oh,
Cool.
nice.
And he says he has nice air conditioning there, so maybe he wants to stay longer. I don't know.
Okay, so boo, he got released.
Means he's making bail.
Yeah, he made bail, back to the house, swamp and hot.
Yeah. You might have to feign an illness to go back and get the air conditioning
Get
for
back
a few
in.
days.
I'm still broke. Take me back.
Okay.
Cool. Well,
Hit the button, sir.
This concludes another episode of the CoCoNation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Technicolor computer. For all things the CoCoNation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCoNation show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCoNation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCoNation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server. CoCo forever.
The blinking light.
Okay, a quick little update that happened. I just noticed as the outro was playing is that Bob has uploaded the Dang It disk image to the Game On Challenge, including the ASCII save, so you can load it on a Dragon or load it onto MC10 and, do any patches like that string. And also Jim Rye has uploaded the 2048 with the scroll or the score rollover patch. So it should be able to handle scores up to 99,999. That doesn't have the other two bugs that we're mentioning during the show, but that should at least fix the scores so we can trust you when you say, no, I've wrapped it twice and I actually got 23,000 points, not 3,000. Sorry, Nick.
Damn.
No photoshopping for you.
Well, he'll still Photoshop, but at least he can't cheat with the actual score.
Just patch the patch. He'll be fine.
I got 1,050, but I wrapped it 5 times. Trust me. Why are all the numbers only like 64 and less? Anyway, Nick, are you looking forward to our CoCoTECH?
Yeah, I'm just putting together the pack of lies. Yeah.
Okay, I already finished my part of the pack of lies. So
no problem, Nick. I'll be there to support you.
This presentation will be rated BS.
We'll just get a BS air right off the start. That's how we'll start the show.
Start there.
That's right.
I'll just do run BS air in 10. There we go. It's like a forewarning.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. See y'all next week.